first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
An ejection from the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave once ejected is subject to arrest for trespass. Additionally, council may take a short recess and reconvene virtually. Your testimony today should address the matter being considered. When testifying, 1, state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. 2, disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. 3, for testifiers joining virtually, please unmute yourself once the council clerk calls your name. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of notes. On this afternoon's item, we have about 170 plus people signed up to testify, so we did notice that it will be 2 minutes of public testimony. Keep in mind that is over 6 hours of public testimony. We want to make sure we get through everybody who would like to be heard today. So please, as you're planning your talking points, limit yourself to 2 minutes. The rules of order and decorum are so that we have a safe environment for everybody, regardless of their perspective. We want to make sure that everybody feels safe and welcome to express their views. If you came into the chamber with the assumption that you have the only viewpoint, you will be wrong. We want to make sure that we do have the opportunity to hear people, and that includes people who disagree with me, people who disagree with my colleagues, maybe people who disagree with you. But let's show that the democratic process can work. And if it doesn't, I just want to warn those of you who think this doesn't matter, we will go to virtual. We do not have to legally meet in person. I prefer we do, that we have everybody here, that we can look each other in the eye and hear different perspectives and be civil about it. But if we can't, then what I'll do is I'll give notice that we are going to go virtual. We'll clear the room, and that will be that. So with that, we will get to our first item, item number 451.
Amend City Code to update existing public camping restriction policies to comply with House Bill 3115.
Colleagues, this is a first reading of a non-emergency ordinance. That means we will not be voting today, but we will hear a presentation. We will have public testimony. There will potentially be some opportunity for council discussion depending upon what time we get through testimony. This item amends the city code to update existing public camping restriction policies to comply with the state's House Bill 3115. Before we begin, I'd like to make a technical amendment to the ordinance to remove and correct references to the hearings office. This is a technical amendment. I move as follows. Section 1, finding 8 of the ordinance regarding the hearings office is stricken and replaced with the following sentence. The city will ensure the district attorney's office is aware of the additional affirmative defense that may be asserted under House Bill 3115. Could I get a second, please?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Mapps. Any further discussion on the amendment? Mayor. Commissioner Gonzalez.
So can you just help clarify the background here on the need for the change?
I will defer to legal counsel as it's a technical amendment, but I believe what it is doing is stating that under House Bill 3115 there are additional legal rights assumed under these time, place, manner ordinances, and we are acknowledging that. But I'll defer to Robert, who actually is an attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Robert Taylor, City Attorney. Under House Bill 3115, there is an affirmative defense for somebody charged with violating a city ordinance passed under that bill. And the affirmative defense allows the defendant to assert that the restriction is not objectively reasonable. And so this technical amendment just makes it clear that the city will instruct the district attorney about that affirmative defense.
Is the intent that we bypass a hearing officer mechanism or entirely?
The intent under the enforcement mechanism is to provide 2 warnings, and then after those 2 warnings, it would be subject to a criminal prosecution by the district attorney. And we also understand that the district attorney is interested in diversion opportunities to connect people with services and resources.
And just to be crystal clear, so what's envisioned would bypass hearing officer unless diverted to by the DA or as a part of that criminal justice system.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I want to think about it. I'll approve it for purposes of the amendment, but we'll want to think about that a little bit.
Would you like me to hold off on the vote on the amendment?
I mean, I don't want to disrupt the process, so if it's advantageous to get it in right now, I would support it, but I
Why don't we do it? Because it basically has to be in it, as
Okay.
I understand it. Please, any further questions? No. Please call the roll.
Ryan.
Aye.
Gonzalez.
Aye.
Knox.
Aye.
Rubio.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the amendment passes. I'll also note that 2 sentences in the impact statement at the 8th paragraph of the Budget Office Financial Impact Analysis regarding the Hearings Office will also be stricken by the Council Clerk, though that correction does not require an amendment. Thank you, colleagues. So to the matter at hand, there are currently hundreds of unsanctioned, sometimes dangerous, and often squalid homeless camps across all 146 square miles of the city of Portland. These homeless camps, as I've said on many occasions, represent nothing short of a humanitarian catastrophe for those who are struggling in those encampments, as well as the community at large, who often struggle, as we heard this morning, under the public health, the public safety, and the livability issues caused to everybody in the community. We have to continue to balance these important issues. We have to develop workable and compassionate means to connect people to the services they need to get off and stay off the streets. And we also have the further requirement now to update our city code to comply with new state laws related to homelessness. In 2021, specifically, the Oregon legislature adopted House Bill 3115. This bill requires all cities in Oregon to update their local camping ordinances to ensure that they're objectively reasonable with respect to time, place, and manner restrictions on unsanctioned camping. These changes must be adopted by all Oregon jurisdictions by July 1st, 2023. House Bill 3115, along with rulings from the 9th Circuit Court, like Martin v. Boise, require local jurisdictions to adjust their laws regulating unsanctioned camping so that they can be meaningfully enforced. Within this legal framework, my administration aims to bring Portland City Code up to par with state law by ensuring the city has reasonable time, place, and manner regulations while continuing our work to find solutions to these complicated problems. These changes to city policy are necessary for 3 primary reasons. First, to make clear my goal of ending unsanctioned camping in the city of Portland. Second, to align our unsanctioned camping city code with the requirements of current state law. And third, to explicitly state in writing the City of Portland's policies as well as our enforcement strategies. As such, I'm proposing the following changes to City Code. Regarding time, prohibit all camping between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Regarding place, a complete ban on camping in specific locations, including but not exclusive to parks, docks, sidewalk areas intended for pedestrians, as well as areas near construction sites, schools, daycare center, existing shelters, high crash corridors, and environmental overlay zones. Regarding manner, camps may not obstruct access to private property or to businesses, start or use gas heaters in or around a site, set up permanent structures, accumulate garbage or hazardous materials, assemble or offer to sell multiple bicycles, cars, or other parts. Enforcement of this ordinance is intended to be a tool to connect people with appropriate resources while also addressing behavior that is damaging to our community at large. The ordinance requires written warnings prior to any penalty. After 2 documented warnings, an additional violation could result in criminal penalties. Our intention is to offer alternative shelter opportunities to those living on our streets. We will phase in our enforcement, if passed, which will coincide with the opening of our first temporary alternative shelter site, with more to follow shortly thereafter. Individuals who do not abide by the strict restrictions outlined in City Code will be subject to a warning citation. My team has expressed my strong commitment to collaborating with the District Attorney as well as Multnomah County Courts to support any efforts to create appropriate alternatives to criminal sanctions for violations. Whether it is acceptance of service referrals, completion of community service, or restorative justice participation, I'm fully behind creating pathways out of the criminal justice system. We're investing millions of dollars in various programs to provide access to services and to shelter. This includes, but is not exclusive to, the city's Safe Rest Villages, temporary alternative shelter sites, and funding to the Joint Office of Homeless Services, which goes towards shelter, rent support, alternative campsites, transitional housing, and other services, including behavioral health, substance use disorder treatment, basic healthcare access, and navigation to housing. I will continue to work to increase and bolster these programs while ensuring the city has reasonable laws that it can enforce to address unsanctioned camping. I also recognize that this ordinance change may place additional burdens on day center facilities. My team is working to identify opportunities to support these critical services. My goal is to have enough shelter, housing, and treatment access available so that we can fully eliminate unsanctioned, unsheltered camping within the city of Portland. I believe that this would be helpful to those who are currently struggling on our streets, and I believe that this is what Portlanders in general are asking for as well. Since announcing these changes, our office has received overwhelming positive support for this proposal. These changes are critical. You may not agree, and that's fine. That's democracy. These changes are critical to the city's compliance with state law and vital to our community's ability to return to the vibrant place that we all love. I'd now like to invite Skylar Brocker-Knapp, my senior policy advisor, as well as Robert Taylor, our city's attorney, to present information to the council. Thanks, Skylar and Robert. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mayor and Commissioners. Good afternoon. Skylar Brocker-Knapp, Senior Policy Advisor for the Mayor. We're going to discuss some of the background and context and then go through some of the pieces, kind of an overview of this ordinance. So just to reiterate, this is amending City Code Titles 14 and 20 with respect to unsanctioned camping in the City of Portland to comply with House Bill 3115 that was passed in the 2021 Oregon State Legislative Session, requiring all jurisdictions within Oregon to comply with that state law. Every jurisdiction has to comply with the ordinances that are objectively reasonable as to time, place, and manner with respect to persons experiencing homelessness.
Hi everyone, this is Greg Nibbler here from Fox 12 Now, just jumping in really quick to let you know what we just heard. So this is public testimony about the camping ban that's going to be taking place. They've been laying out what the proposal is, but it has been confirmed by us that it doesn't sound like they're going to be actually making the vote today. They're going to be, assuming that's at the next meeting, we're going to get that information to you as soon as we find out. So again, we're live here following along with this. They are going to be taking public testimony. They did say there's about 170 people who have signed up to testify, and they each get 2 minutes apiece, and which they estimated to be around 6 hours of testimony. So whether that all happens today, it sounds like it's going to be, but it does not sound like they're actually going to make the vote today. So the city council meeting right now is really a lot about taking public testimony. So I'll get back to it, but I'll be jumping in here and giving you updates as we find out more.
That's why you see in 2021, the Oregon legislature adopted House Bill 3115 that required all cities in Oregon to make sure that their local camping ordinances were objectively reasonable with respect to the time, place, and manner regulating camping. That's what the City of Portland is proposing to do today with this ordinance, and this is also why you see other local jurisdictions throughout the state going through this same process to update their local ordinances.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to run through some of the pieces of the ordinance and these restrictions. So as to time, camping will be permitted only between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. After 8 a.m., all items have to be packed away and the campsite needs to be removed. This is similar to the City of Beaverton's proposal, so neighboring jurisdictions have similar proposals as well. Next slide, please. As to place, the mayor ran through some of these as well, but just to reiterate, this is not an exhaustive list. Involuntarily homeless person may not camp in the following places at any time, even during that 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. time frame. That's on the pedestrian plaza, on city docks, in a pedestrian use zone along the sidewalk that people use, in a park within 250 feet from a preschool, kindergarten, elementary, secondary, or child care center, within 250 feet of a safe park site, a safe rest village, or a temporary alternative shelter site, and then within 250 feet of a construction zone with a building permit, in high crash corridor networks, and then within 250 feet of the environmental overlay zones and river natural area zones, also within areas posted no trespassing by city bureaus. Next slide, please. In terms of manner, these restrictions mirror a lot of the elements in our impact reduction program matrix. So already part of city policies, but being codified into city code. Some of those include not being able to obstruct access to private property or businesses adjacent to the public right-of-way. That includes ingress and egress for fire safety issues as well. Starting or maintaining a fire for the purpose of burning any combustible material in and around a campsite, or the use of a gas heater. Setting up any type of permanent or temporary fixture or structure in and around public property or public right-of-way. Storing belongings or other objects in a total area encompassing more than 10 square feet outside a tent or a readily portable shelter. And then, as the mayor mentioned, assembling, disassembling, offering to distribute or store 3 or more bicycles or 2 or more automobiles or their parts. Robert is going to talk about enforcement of this ordinance.
Enforcement will be phased in using a series of warnings before somebody is subject to criminal enforcement. Somebody would receive 2 written warnings identifying the provisions of the code that were violated. The warnings have to come at least 24 hours apart. And then if you have a third violation within a 1-year period, or a third violation after a conviction within a 1-year period, then you would be subject to criminal enforcement, punishable by a fine of not more than $100 or imprisonment for up to 30 days, or both.
Again, folks, we can go virtual. It's up to you. What I really recommend, you can hate this all you want, but let's hear the presentation, and then when it is your turn to testify, you get the mic. But if we can't be civil, we are going to go virtual, and that's the bottom line. It's my call, and that's what I'm telling you. It's not scary, it's actually just being civil. Go ahead.
The district attorney's office would be responsible under the code for enforcing those criminal penalties. Although the DA, we understand, would be focused on diversion to connect people with necessary services and resources. And that is the intent of the criminal enforcement, is to provide a venue to help people access those additional services and resources.
Next slide, please. So our next steps in terms of communication and outreach, we have spoken with service providers, day center providers, Multnomah County and the DA's office, as well as other folks involved in this process. There will be a need for ongoing communication and education and outreach. for all parties involved. So we've had those discussions, some of those discussions already, and we'll continue to have those discussions over the next couple months. It will be a phased-in enforcement process that will require a lot of education and outreach because it's a change in city code. It won't happen overnight. So communication that will be provided on our website and printed handouts. We will also hold virtual office hours to answer folks' questions. Robert and I will be made available to answer technical questions. We've already briefed the media once, but happy to do it again in a technical briefing. Outreach, obviously, through the Street Services Coordination Center, our impact reduction program, through the Joint Office of Homeless Services and Portland Street Response, and then also the coordination with community-based organizations like I mentioned. There's hundreds of outreach workers who work in the city and the county, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of these code changes and educated on them as well. Again, just to reiterate, this process of enforcement will be phased in over a period of time after the first opening of the temporary alternative shelter site. And again, it'll be an educational process for everyone involved. Changing city code means that we need to educate every person who's a part of the process along the way. Thank you.
Very good. And does that complete your presentation?
Yes.
Very good. Commissioners, I understand some of you have invited testimony. I'll pass it to you and introduce those testifiers. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Sure, I'd like to invite Nick Coffey from my office up. Oh, absolutely. Do you want to go first now? Sure. Nick, we're going to switch it. Commissioner Ryan would like to go first.
If Aaron Watzig is online, I know you have to leave at 3:30. Small business owner at Westside Electric. You there? There he is.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I think you have 3 minutes. Yeah. Or 2 minutes. Is that the rule?
It's invited testimony, so why don't we say 2 minutes?
2 minutes. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Okay. I'll try to be quick here.
Thanks.
So my name is Aaron Watzig. I'm the owner of Westside Electric. And we have 40 amazing people here on our team. Members of NECO, or a union electrical contractor, Local 48. We provide residential and commercial electrical services to the community. For years, we've had major problems with the street camping around us. We've lost numerous people from our team who are very important to our staff and to what we do because they didn't want to come to work or live around the extreme camping drugs crime that is around us. The RVs and the tents and the structures block the sidewalks around our building. There's trash and debris that piles up around those camps in our front door. There's garbage being burned that sucks in through the rooftop units, and it affects all the employees in here. We have to put filtration systems in so that people can not be coughing and try to breathe. You use our landscape as a restroom. There's drug items thrown over our fence into our lot. Can't find a landscape person that will even come and clean it up. Cut down our trees. They're breaking into employees' vehicles, our company vehicles, stealing our tools, breaking into our building, cutting through our fence. I could go on for hours with everything that I've had to deal with this, being down here 8 to 12 hours a day. I've had personal conversations with many of the people around here, the people that are living in these camps, trying to help them to see if they need help. Found one gentleman a job and a place to stay to get him out of the situation because he seen he wanted that. He did not want help. He just moved his camp over a little bit and continued to do what he was doing. There's drugs everywhere. They're selling bags and tools and everything all day long outside my windows. It's a problem because I care about everyone that's here, and I don't like to see people living like that out there on the street, and it affects our business. Customers are working down here. I could go on a little more.
Thank you.
And I think it's the best thing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Dan, is that? Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Gonzalez. Okay.
Nick Coffey from my office. He has some research that we want to walk through briefly.
Could you just state your name for the record, please?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Nick Coffey. I'm a policy specialist for Commissioner Gonzalez. He asked that I analyze his current proposal and contrast it with some of our neighboring jurisdictions to identify where we largely align and where some differences exist in its current form. Two of our larger neighbors, Beaverton and Tigard, are putting forward their own ordinances right now, and I have noted some differences. Last week, Tigard adopted their time, place, manner ordinance, and Beaverton is set to pass their most recent amended version on June 6. Tigard has gone a step further than Portland at this current proposal by largely increasing the camping buffer zones around child care providers, schools, and high-traffic corridors to 500 feet, while this proposal dictates only 250 feet. Additionally, both Tigard and Beaverton have larger distance buffers for camping near shelters and homeless service providers, as well as a broader definition. This current proposal for Portland dictates a camping ban within 250 feet of city-owned safe park, safe rest, and future sanctioned camp areas. Both our neighbors to the west include nonprofit and private providers in their definitions of sheltering and services. This proposal only includes city-owned sites. Tigard has implemented a 500-foot buffer around shelters and providers. Beaverton will adopt a buffer of 1,000 feet. Beaverton has also dictated buffer requirements between campsites in response to issues they have noted in situations where the campsites are closely clustered together. In response, they are pursuing a 150-foot buffer between the campsites. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our office or the city attorney's office for inquiries on the language in the ordinance itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Follow-up.
Nick, you want to hold on one second here? Can you walk us through what you found with respect to Lake Oswego?
Sure. Lake Oswego has dictated that they do not feel the need to create a new time, place, manner ordinance, seeing that their existing city policy already went far enough in meeting the state's concerns. Lake Oswego has been much more strict than the city of Portland and other surrounding municipalities up to this point, so they are not providing an updated time, place, manner ordinance.
At all? And can you just give like the high level on what Lake Oswego currently prohibits?
Sure. So Lake Oswego does not provide city-sponsored sites. They only allow tent camping in the event of it being in an individual's backyard. I'm sorry, I can't speak much further into Lake Oswego.
Fair enough. So is it fair to say, based on your review of neighboring cities, that Portland is less restrictive than Beaverton, Tigard, or Lake Oswego?
That's correct.
I'll leave it at that, right?
All right, thank you. Anybody else have invited testimony? Commissioner Rubio, you have an amendment?
I do. Just a second here. So thank you, Mayor. I'm introducing the following amendments, sort of in the spirit of reflecting on the conversation we had back in November 2022. A majority of this council stated publicly that we would not seek to criminalize a community member solely for being homeless. And we also agreed that we needed to create an expanded system of housing options. And given that we do not yet have all the available units, and that's why we're opening the temporary alternative shelter sites with on-site services, my amendment makes it clear that we are aligning our timelines to match with the increase in available shelter sites. And in addition, to give our officers time to be trained by the new training dean. I don't know that they know all the details of this ordinance. I also believe that all of our shelter providers need time to understand what this new ordinance will mean. So what my amendment reads is as follows: amending section 1, council finds, and adding paragraph number 11. The City of Portland Resolution number 37595 directed the establishment of at least 6 designated camping sites that must be diversely spread across the city that will serve as an alternative to self-site unsanctioned encampments, offer mental health and substance abuse treatment services to people in Portland experiencing homelessness. Also adding section B to the council directives as follows. Now therefore the council directs that enforcement of City Code section 14A.50.025 will be integrated into the timeline and phased as such as to match the delivery date of the first 2 designated camping sites, such as there is congruence in the enforcement and ability of people to have meaningful places to move to after being given initial warnings, and allow sufficient time for the training dean to provide training to city officers. So I just want us to hold true to what we had stated in the intent. It doesn't make sense to me to move forward with this aspect if we don't have the tasks set up fully equipped to receive people so they have a place to go. So that's my amendment.
Very good. Is there a second to the amendment? I'll second it for discussion purposes, and then we'll keep on. I'll be honest, I don't support it, and I'll tell you why. Number one, I would like to maintain the flexibility that is in this particular ordinance. The time, place, manner ordinance is separate from the temporary alternative shelter sites. That is a separate issue, and it may be the case that in a year or 2 years or 4 years or 7 years, we don't need any of them, which would be my hope. We might go in a different direction and expand shelter services or other alternative temporary sites, that we're locking ourselves into one specific strategy. Temporary alternative shelter site, the first one will open in July, and it will hold approximately 140 people. Our current shelter system holds over 2,500. So what that particular strategy right now, as we are just beginning to scale it up, is a drop in the bucket. So I'm putting my cards on the table. I appreciate the spirit in which you brought this forward, Commissioner. I see where you're heading with it, and I see what you're trying to do. I just won't support it. That's where I am. But I will second it for the purposes of discussion. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yeah, I just had a follow-up question. I guess this is first to the mayor and his team. What is the anticipated timeline for the second temporary alternative shelter?
So 1st July, and Sky, if you're still floating around here somewhere, maybe you could come back and tell us what you think the approximate time frame for number 2 is.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Commissioners. Skylar Brucker-Knapp, Senior Policy Advisor. So it will likely be in fall. We don't have a precise date just due to construction timelines. Probably in early October would be my guess.
And do we have a site located,
Yes.
a lease signed for the space?
Not a lease, we have an LOI signed. We're working on a lease right now.
So no signed lease. Do we have a provider selected? Will be Urban Alchemy for that purpose? So no signed lease, and you're thinking it would be fall for the second?
Yes.
Okay. I think that I'm good on questions for Skylar. Thank you. I'll echo the mayor on this. I won't support this amendment. I think time, place, manner needs to be separate from the discussion about creation of shelter. We need to pursue both of them with earnest, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Very good. Commissioner, would you mind if we leave this open for testimony? Terrific. Good. Thank you. Any further amendments? Good. We'll get to the main show then. Many individuals have signed up to testify today. How many folks do we have signed up, Keelan?
176.
176. So again, we are limiting testimony to 2 minutes. That's still over 6 hours of testimony. I know not everybody can stick around that long. Some of you who are at the end of the list might want to come back. It's certainly your call. Note that the clerk will mute virtual testifiers when they've completed their 2 minutes. That is not her choice. That is my directive, just so we keep things moving so that we can hear from everybody. For those of you who are in person, I would kindly ask you to complete your testimony within that 2-minute time frame. Thank you. So with that, we'll turn it over to our very wonderful council clerk, and she'll call people in order. You don't need to give your address or anything like that. You can state your name if you'd like. We prefer it. If you're a lobbyist, we need to know that. And if you're here representing an organization, you're certainly welcome to say that too.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, we have Heather Lynn Van Wild in person.
Thank you. Talk about putting the cart before the horse. Ask AstroTurfing Dark Money Group People for Portland released polling stating 23% of Portlanders opposed this ordinance. That's better numbers than what Sandy Chung of the ACLU pointed out when in 1961, Gallup asked who approved of the Freedom Riders. That was only 22%. Just because something is popular does not make it right, and this ordinance, as written, is not right. The rules proposed do not give objectively reasonable restrictions about homeless people being able to rest. It gives no recognition to homeless people who actively work night shifts, and yes, they do exist, who would now have no safe place or time to sleep. It discriminates against marginalized people who sleep during the day so they can stay awake at night when the risk of harm to them is the highest. It makes no effort to address where people are supposed to maintain their belongings if they have to pack them up every morning. It makes no provision for if there's no safe place to go. Looking at the list of now banned places, even as a longtime resident, I'd be confused about what's allowed and what's not allowed without a map. This will actively hurt nonprofits like Blanchett House, Sisters of the Road, and Rose Haven. Homeless advocacy groups did not get to provide feedback on this plan, nor does it appear were any homeless people consulted. Even the Oregon Law Center, who helped frame HB 3115, says this is an inappropriate response. Contrary to Mayor Wheeler's previous claims, this is an attempt to criminalize homelessness, and instead of jailing homeless people, that money could be better spent working to provide adequate housing for a fraction of the cost. Experts agree that permanent supportive housing is the most cost-effective solution too, but instead we go back to the Trump playbook. The city had 2 years to address HB 3115, but literally waited until the last month to come up with a deeply flawed and likely unconstitutional plan. But hey, at least it removes a ban on skateboarding on cobblestone roads.
Our next 3 testifiers are joining us online. First up, Lance Goldenberg, followed by Tim McCormick and Vadim Nazirski.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, great. Okay, well, I just want to thank you guys, Mayor and Council, for your courage in finally taking steps to address this critical issue in a humane, realistic way. Enacting and enforcing clear, time and place restrictions on camping is long overdue. And I applaud your effort to codify this with the various bureaus that full authority to humanely redirect individuals to sanction camping, parking, shelters, and other resources. Many of our city's best intentions have misfired and come back upon us. We have enabled, and in some ways even encouraged, street living, to the point where far too many of our streets and public spaces are now inaccessible, environmentally unsound, unsafe, often resembling open air insane asylums. Yeah, I know, it's cliche, and it's all a piece of evil. We absolutely cannot allow this situation to continue. We cannot allow people to keep refusing help, refusing shelter, refusing hope, to keep waiting on the streets, because Portland has allowed this horrible situation to snowball to the point where it's now nearly unmanageable. We have to turn off the welcome sign street camping and be strong enough to say no. We need the legal tools to encourage and compel people experiencing mental substance use disorder to get help. Who otherwise creates a potential danger to those in crisis and those around them. We've long difficult uphill struggle to have this, but at least what's on the table today is finally a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Next up is Tim McCormick.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler, council members. My name is Tim McCormick. I'm the Director of Housing Alternatives Network nonprofit. First, I want to thank you for tackling this tough issue in a civil way and letting different voices be heard. I think Mayor Wheeler kind of got to the heart of it in a statement this morning early on. He said, people need to know if they can't be there, where can they be? As Hillel the Elder said about 2,000 years ago, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If not now, when? We can add, if not here, where? Now, I'm asking this myself because I personally don't have housing for next month, and I'm building a car trailer to live in as a fallback if nothing else comes through. Thousands of other people now on the street will or currently have that problem. The city has this question also in order to enact and defend any such policy. So you might say that ironically we have a common interest here. So I have a proposal about something concrete and practical we can do today. And in fact, I've already built the first version of it. That is a tool to help anyone answer the question immediately, can I be here? If not, where can I go? What can I do? You can go online at ifnothere.org, see the start of this, and see how you can help. You can email help@ifnothere.org. You can tweet ifnothere, or hashtag ifnotherewhere. We'll have a phone number that you can text. And finally, if you are housed and you're not personally facing this, we still aren't. And you want to know how you can help. As I said, I'm building a trailer. It's a way for me to solve the problem for myself, but also to potentially solve it for hundreds or thousands of other people. If you have a garage, a driveway, a side yard, or a backyard, and you can offer it, let us know. You can provide a place to be yourself. Thank you. Bye.
Next up is Vadim Mazurski.
I have a strong suspicion there will be plenty of opinions presented to me over the next 6 hours of testimony. So let me begin by reading off some facts. A record 193 homeless people died in Multnomah County in 2021, a 53% increase compared to the previous year. Substance abuse contributed about 60% of those deaths. Last year, 36% of pedestrians killed in traffic-related crashes were homeless. Homicides in the homeless community more than doubled to 8 in 2021, amounting to 20% of homicides that year. In 2022, there were almost 2,000 homeless-related fires, 41% of all fires in the city. These are all more staggering because the homeless comprise of only about 0.7% of Multnomah County. Last year, the city and contractors picked up a total of 167,273 pounds of trash from around encampments. The city in the past has built a reputation for being environmentally conscious. We have a humanitarian, a public safety, a drug addiction, a mental health, and even an environmental catastrophe in our hands. We all know the obvious truth from these staggering figures. The status quo is not tenable. Our recent poll reflects this. 75% of Multnomah County voters say that homelessness in Portland is an out-of-control disaster, quote unquote. 71% they support the current ordinance. This ordinance provides full support to homeowners who know the status quo is not working for them and their families. It is pragmatic in addressing the livability and safety needs of Portlanders and visitors alike, while also compassionately addressing the need to connect the homeless to services. As we listeners, we have a long journey ahead of us before we deal with the mental health and drug addiction crises that we're witnessing in our streets, on our sidewalks, and our green spaces. But this ordinance is a step in the right direction and a necessary step. Thank you.
Next up, we have Eric Cole joining us online, followed by Sandra Comstock and Dwayne Reynolds in person.
Thank you, Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is Eric Cole. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm here on behalf of Portland Coalition, and I am a registered lobbyist. We're the voice of the commercial real estate industry, which I think you know is the largest industry in Portland downtown. Our membership represents a workforce of over 8,000 members across Oregon. We support 451 on your agenda today with the understanding that additional shelter options come online rapidly. As is so apparent, we believe the status quo of tents, unabated debris, and dangerous conditions calls for this action to be taken, and we agree with Mayor Wheeler that we do face a humanitarian catastrophe, and our members see it every day on their properties and in their neighborhoods. We're also frankly concerned about an economic catastrophe for our entire region if we don't address the situation in our Central Port District. A diminished Central City has economic consequences for all our neighborhoods. We believe reasonable rules on unauthorized camping is a necessary step. People camping on our streets aren't served well by the status quo. As you establish safe alternative shelter opportunities, such as this ordinance, they can result in a greater connection to services and resources. And we think these settings provide a valuable opportunity for vulnerability screenings, for folks to get access to mental health issues, substance disorders, addiction, as well as co-occurring diagnoses. Hopefully that can lead to improved treatment and support. Instead of giving out tents, we should not be satisfied until no one lives in inhumane conditions on our streets. We respectfully ask you to approve this measure, and we believe it will improve the quality of life in our city as well as connect more Portlanders to services, treatment, and health. Thank you.
Next up, we have Sandra Comstock.
Hi, I'm Sandra Comstock, and I'm here because I'm really tired of cleaning up after the city, a city that punishes rather than helps unsheltered neighbors. The camping ban is just one more weight on our overwhelmed shoulders as providers, asking homeless Portlanders, 60% of whom live with one or more disabilities, to carry their homes on their backs for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, will heighten mental and physical distress, hitting houseless and frontline workers like a punch to the gut. Slapping $100 fines on homeless Portlanders will result in warrants, jail time that raise rather than lower barriers to health and housing, the key to our success in solving this problem. In a call last week, Skylar Brocker-Knapp couldn't tell us what rules would govern ticketing, stating only that tickets would be for those who officers remembered. With Portland's record of over-policing Black, brown, trans, and mentally ill residents, this ban won't just generally harm, but disproportionately ticket and jail groups who are already targeted and underserved. Last week, Eric Zimmerman additionally promised businesses that the city would be sending tough Urban Alchemy staff out into the streets with extra police to the Central East Side to push people into the UA camps where, quote, no one would be hugging it out with homeless people. The harsh and counterproductive methods of Urban Alchemy are backed up by its record of shooting a homeless man in San Francisco and the woeful performance of its LA camp, where just 7% of residents found permanent housing, 50% disappeared, and 7 died. The camping ban won't just deepen the suffering, it promises no relief for housed or houseless Portlanders. With this in mind, why not address the problems housed people are complaining about and houseless people are suffering from? From the Huckert data, we know that those complaining about camps are most concerned about trash, biowaste, and use of public space. Trash and biowaste could be solved by doing what those of us on the Clean and Green Committee have been urging the city to do for years. Provide public toilets and rationalize trash service. Improving access to city streets and land is also possible if we focus resources on things like move-in Multnomah and master leases, which fast-tracked 214 to healthy housing in less than 4 months for just $4 million, a fraction of what the cost of one of these 250-person Urban Alchemy camps is going to cost you. Yet we are poised to spend...
30 seconds.
Okay, yeah, we're poised to spend $60 million plus on sweeps, tickets, jailing, and camps to nowhere. I'm tired of cleaning up after the policies that strain our resources and kill our health and well-being of homeless, low-income, and frontline workers alike. I wish that you would listen and collaborate. It's time to put on your grown-up pants, stop pointing fingers and belittling us, and wearing out those of us who stand between you and a much bigger humanitarian disaster. Thank you.
The time police, so please keep your remarks to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Next up, we have Dwayne Reynolds. They were planning to join in person. Is Dwayne Reynolds here? Okay, we'll move on to David Dixon, joining us online.
Hello, my name is David Dixon. I co-chair the Downtown Neighborhood Association Homeless Houseless Team. During the COVID camp-in-place period, our 25 Good Neighbor volunteers deliver survival items on a weekly basis to our unhoused neighbors in downtown. As a good neighbor, I witnessed firsthand the cruelty and inhumanity of unsheltered camping. We held a memorial service for a double amputee who died in his tent. I greeted a young girl who returned to her camp in tears after being raped. A 15-year-old camp leader died of an overdose. We must build more housing for the thousands of unhoused Portlanders, but we cannot wait forever for this to happen. If an earthquake left thousands homeless, wouldn't we let them suffer on the street for years, waiting for housing to be built? No. We would immediately create safe and sanitary shelter. We must do the same today. I support the mayor's plan to end unsheltered camping. Unsheltered homelessness is cruel and dehumanizing. People are dying on the streets. We must use all of Portland's creativity to create shelter for our unhoused neighbors. Sweeps alone do not solve the problem. They make it worse. The mayor's plan for large outdoor shelters will work for many, but it won't work for everyone. We need multiple shelter options that will work for the many unique needs that our unhoused neighbors have. Let's build on what works. Dignity Village, with its long history of self-governance. We shine, tiny home communities, Safe Rest Villages, Kenton's Women's Village, and Hazelnut Grove. The pop-up shelters proposed by Keith Wilson, using churches and community centers as night shelter sites. Unsheltered homelessness for too long has hurt Portland's reputation and quality of life for everyone, especially our unhoused neighbors. Let's harness our innovative spirit and end unsheltered camping in Portland now. Thank you.
Next up, we have Frank Cobb. Frank Cobb. Kay Wren. Kay Wren. Arita Wren. Arita Wren. Melissa Hansen. Melissa Hansen. Gary Barker. Gary Barker.
Could I ask a question? If somebody's in the overflow room, how are we going to know?
Oh, good question.
So if, in the overflow room, if your name is called and you hear it, just come to the main chamber and we'll set you up in here. We're not going to skip over you.
Great, thank you for making that announcement. Let's move on to Jonathan Lawson.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Mayor Wheeler. My name is Jonathan Malson. I'm a business and property owner in Portland's Central East Side and a board member of the Central East Side Industrial Council. Over the past 20 years, our business, Beam Development, has been fortunate to work with countless small businesses of all types in the Central East Side, and therefore I'm confident we have a unique insight into the challenges these small businesses face, which is such a vital part of our local economy. The primary concern we hear from these small businesses is the lack of safety on the street, resulting in employees and customers not feeling safe coming to our district, and thus making it extremely difficult to sustain or grow a business in the district and provide the quality jobs that have historically existed there. The main factor driving the perception and reality of an unsafe district has been the proliferation of unsanctioned camping on sidewalks, in the street, under overpasses, around off-ramps, and on other publicly owned properties, of which there are many in the Central East Side. In a district struggling to recover following the pandemic, navigating around tents, trash, human excrement, and drug paraphernalia is simply too intimidating and traumatic for many workers and customers to feel safe returning. Something needs to change. I believe our community's intentions have been in the right place by prioritizing compassion for those who find themselves on our street. However, I also believe that our community has been taken advantage of by a significant number of people that do not want shelter, treatment, or the like, and merely want to live consequence-free on our streets. We need a new approach to the persistent problems of houselessness and unsanctioned camping, an approach that will allow our city to revitalize, ensuring we have resources to help those in our community most in need. For those reasons, I support this ordinance and respectfully ask that the council adopt it. Thank you.
Next up, we have Art Fortuna in person.
Good afternoon. Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners, my name is Art Fortuna. I own a business called Vibrant Table Catering. We're located in southeast Portland. I also am the current Vice President of the Central East Side Industrial Council, and I'm on the board, a member of the ESD that was formed about 4 years ago that is called Central East Side Together. And we formed that ESD with the support of the City Council to provide additional services in our district, which included sanitation, safety, care teams, and graffiti abatement. Frankly, we've been overwhelmed by the problem of the houseless community. Even though we have a major representation on our board of all communities, including houseless, as well as associations that are working with the houseless. And we have found it to be incredibly difficult to maintain, particularly in the last 3 years with COVID. And we're finding that we formed with the concept of using informed care, trauma-informed care, and we've maintained that throughout the process, but it's still an overwhelming problem that we can't seem to do enough for. In recent weeks and months, we've got the mayor's program, which has been the 90-day reset, which we've seen nice improvements on, and we think that that's a step in the right direction, and we support both the CEIC and the CED do support this measure so that we can give the Portland Police a tool that helps them move in the direction that I think in the long term will be improved. Thank you very much.
Next up.
Again, folks, if everybody here agreed with you, that's a problem. And we don't want to be in a democracy where everybody agrees on everything. Let's have a competition of ideas. Let's hear everybody out. Can we do that, please?
Next up, we have Scott Kerman.
Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners, my name is Scott Kerman. I'm the Executive Director of Blanchet House, and I use he, him pronouns. Should this ordinance go into effect, it's day centers like Blanchet House that are going to be on the front lines helping people who are affected by this ordinance and likely further traumatized by the ordinance. I'm here to request financial assistance for Blanchet House and other agencies who provide these essential daytime services. If we are going to meet the increased need for our help that this ordinance will cause, we are going to need your support. Blanchet House's Founders Cafe, which each of you have visited, is a community space where people not only receive hot, freshly prepared meals, but also clothing, peer support, resources, and referrals. In recent months, our team has also become first responders, reviving people overdosing on fentanyl. Blanchet House has become a hub where both public and private agencies come on a regular basis to deliver information and resources, as well as health care and other services people need. And I might interject a reminder that we serve not just unsheltered persons, but also people who live in other shelters or in low-income housing. Unsheltered or not, the people we serve live in extreme poverty and insecurity. All of this occurs without the assistance of public dollars. Blanchet House budget and expanded its staff to meet the profound need in our community. Thank goodness for the generosity of individuals, foundations, businesses that we've been able to keep up with this need. But this measure will require us to do even more as people are affected. Mayor Wheeler, you yourself have acknowledged that day centers will be an important resource in helping people affected by this measure. How will we respond? Well, sure, of course, because that's what we do. For the last 3 years, we've responded to every crisis and catastrophe, no matter the cause or consequence. We provide a safe place for people to go for care and comfort, and we provide services that keep people going until there's shelter and housing available for them. With regards to this ordinance, we're going to need your support in order to keep it going. Thank you.
Scott, if I may, I want to say I agree with you, and we'll look forward to working with you on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Chris Hansen.
Thank you. My name is Chris Hansen. I founded Nordic Semiconductor about 5 years ago in downtown Portland. We are a public company based in Norway with about 2,000 employees worldwide. We currently have about 30 employees in downtown Portland and about another 60 spread across the Pacific Northwest and the rest of the United States. I mean, I chose downtown Portland at the time 5 years ago because it was a hip city. Easy to attract new employees. It was a nice city to live in. It had good transportation, public transportation into downtown from outlying areas. Easy walking distance. The walking score was very good. People could go to restaurants and things like that. And it was a great success. But unfortunately, because of the unsanctioned housing, I guess it's called, those benefits that we had have actually turned into liabilities for us now. It's very difficult. We have employees actually who are frightened, okay? So instead of using public transportation now, we're actually funding parking for people's cars in downtown. So instead of using our excellent transportation system, we are paying for parking for people so they can avoid it, which is not what we really want long-term in the city. Additionally, we have not getting people coming from abroad on the Delta flight from Amsterdam. People have been, unfortunately, had some bad experiences with this, so they are not even coming to Portland any longer either. So with that, I'm just saying that this is a situation that we see. So I'd like to, for the mayor and the council, I support Measure 451, but I also want to stress that we need to support the vulnerable and needy amongst us in the city too. We cannot shirk those responsibilities at the same time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
Next up, we have Katie O'Brien, followed by Alan Combs.
Hi, my name is Katie O'Brien, and I'm the executive director at Rosehaven. We are a daytime shelter that serves women, children, and gender diverse folks who are experiencing homelessness and poverty. And we help people meet their basic needs for safety and restrooms and showers and nutritious food. And then we have on-site advocates who help navigate the limited resources available for housing and recovery and domestic violence and mental health. And our primary mission is to provide community and connectivity, but over the course of the last year, we've just become more and more of a crisis response center. To the point where we've added 3 mental health workers to help us deal with the emergent need of people in serious crisis who have nowhere else to go but here. This ban on daytime camping is going to exacerbate a lot of these issues, and it's also going to really complicate things for women who tend to stay awake at night and sleep during the daytime for safety reasons. I want to make sure that we have complete clarity about what outside spaces are available for people, and there's a long list of places that they can't go, so we need to know that. And additionally, you referred to daytime shelters as spaces that people can go to, but this ban is going to increase the pressure on agencies like ours and further challenge the delicate relationships that we have with our neighbors here. We moved from a 3,000 square foot facility to one that's 10,000 square feet this last year, and demand for services is just continuing to skyrocket, and we served over 3,000 people last year. Yesterday was the first day in 26 years that we've ever had to not let people in and hold a line out front because we had 145 people inside. So I just want to say that we're going to continue to be creative and responsive to need, but we are at a breaking point. And this is not going to happen without a whole lot of help. We're at capacity and we have no financial reserves to make this happen. So we need your support.
Thanks, Katie.
Next up, we have Alan Combs.
Good afternoon, Mayor Wheeler and council members. My name is Alan Combs, pronounced he, him. I spoke this morning for item 437 and I'm back to register my support in favor of conforming the city ordinances with HB 3115. Before explaining why I support the measure, let me suggest one amendment. I regularly witness the unhoused sleeping within inches of dangerous public roads. I recommend that unless the easement is greater than, say, 10 feet, and camping adjacent to a road with a speed limit above, say, 30 miles an hour, and that has 2 lanes, be prohibited even if it's not considered high crash. Suggestion. But back to why I support. In December, I testified before you and recounted my experience of observing a bi-local population among the unhoused, one population with a high turnover rate that either got services or otherwise moved off the street, and another, a group very intent on staying put. 5 months later, this is still true, and the inconvenient fact is that nearly all the stay put crowd people that I observe and try to help in the ways I can are either addicted or experiencing severe mental illness. I say this because I see Portland Street Response come time after time. They offer dialogue, shelter, but these people will not go. made it very easy to be an addict in the city and to do so in public space. We need to find incentives for them to get off the street and get safe. Portland is a compassionate city. The approval of the homeless service tax literally raises hundreds of millions of dollars in the footprint of Portland to the county. The city and county have the capacity to open alternative shelters, and the city ordinance before you today provides an incentive to get chronically unhoused into shelters, possibly alternative ones, where they'll receive better services. To say that unrestricted camping anywhere, anytime is a path to services or somehow provides harm reduction, to me is cynical and nothing less than cruel. You are our leaders, and you have a choice of where the city is to go. Do you want a place that is attractive to newcomers, a place to live, and community, or one that provides a very deep
Next up, we have Edward Johnson, followed by Emily Hawley, both in person.
Good afternoon. My name's Ed Johnson. I'm the Director of Litigation at the Oregon Law Center. I've had the privilege of representing Oregonians who've been forced to live outside for more than 25 years. I'm the lead counsel in the Grants Pass case that's currently pending before the Ninth Circuit. I understand that I'm not going to be able to persuade you to do the right thing here today, but this ordinance is the wrong thing to do. Life is very hard for people who are living outside, and this ordinance is about to make it even harder. This ordinance will not solve the serious problems that this city is facing. It will make those problems worse. We know what works: supportive housing, rent assistance, tenant protections, and supporting people, keeping them stable when they are outside. This law cuts against all of that. It will destabilize and criminalize our neighbors who've been forced outside. And it will waste money that could be spent toward these solutions. On the legal front, there's no doubt that this new law violates ORS 195-530 because it is not reasonable to expect people to pack up and disappear every morning when they have nowhere to go. It is not reasonable to expect people to understand the incomprehensible list of places that they cannot camp when there is no list or map or information about where they can camp. I read ordinances and statutes for a living, and if I had to sleep outside tonight and comply with this law, I would literally have no idea how to do that. It is also unreasonable because it is unfair and unreasonable to throw people in jail for 30 days after 2 warnings for violating an incomprehensible law that they have no choice but to violate to begin with. So I understand you're going to pass this law, but you should do it with the understanding that it will not work, it will make this situation worse, and it will face the city with liability for violating state law, the 8th Amendment, and the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Excuse me. Hello? Folks, Commissioner Gonzalez had a comment or a question if you wanted to come back. Could I please implore you again? Look, it's fine that you support the position you support. That's fine. But, well, no, what you're doing is you're shutting down other voices because it's taking. Look, we're not here to applaud. We're not here to boo or hiss or heckle people. We're here to listen to people's perspective. He gave a good cogent argument, so let's hear it. And I will say again, if we have to go virtual, we'll go virtual. It's up to you. It's up to you. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Just some quick follow-up questions there. Are you familiar with Beaverton's proposed ordinance?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Are you familiar with Beaverton's proposed ordinance?
Once again, this is literally the last warning I'm giving, and then we are going to clear the chamber and we are going to go virtual. This is it. The one guy claps again. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Go ahead.
I want to thank you for testifying, first of all, but are you familiar with Beaverton's proposed ordinance to comply with?
Only what I heard your staffer say earlier today.
And are you familiar with Tiger's proposed ordinance to comply with state law?
Same thing.
Are you familiar that Lake Oswego is not proposing to amend their city existing bans on?
Only what I heard here today.
So why do you choose to grace the city of Portland with your presence on these ordinances, but not Beaverton, Tiger, or other jurisdictions that are also doing their best to balancing the very difficult public policy considerations?
I'm a Portlander and I've lived here for 27 years and I care about this city.
I appreciate your testimony. I'd encourage you to make yourself aware of what other cities are doing to try and comply with state law before stating a very public conclusion about the lack of objectivity in what the city's proposing here. I'd leave it at that.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Emily Hawley.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners Gonzalez, Max, Rubio, and Bryant. My name is Emily Hawley, and I'm Senior Policy Associate at the ACLU Board. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in opposition to this draft ordinance on behalf of the ACLU Board. We strongly caution the City of Portland that the proposed ordinance likely violates Ordinance Statute 195-530. These prohibitions further risk unconstitutionality under Norton v. Boise. The fact that other locales have also proposed ordinances that may be worse than this does not make this policy humane or reasonable. As drafted, this ordinance imposes an impossibly restrictive constellation of places to rest and impractical and harmful limits on when an unsheltered person may do so. The daytime camping ban ignores the reality that for many houseless individuals, nights are not safe. Houseless individuals are disproportionately victims of violent crime, especially women and members of the LGBT community. This ordinance would effectively penalize those for whom nights are the least safe. The ordinance would further ban camping in a long list of locations that others have made clear. And what they've also made clear is that this list is so expansive that it leaves one wondering what places remain for houseless people to exist. People and our physical bodies and possessions cannot simply disappear from public spaces if the government orders us to do so. This requirement is particularly harmful and unreasonable for houseless individuals with disabilities and those experiencing mental health crises. It's foreseeably harmful, unduly burdensome, and unreasonable for the city to create such complex and ever-changing place restrictions. Moreover, the ordinance ultimately relies on criminal enforcement, turning to an extraordinarily expensive, inhumane, and ineffective response to the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding in Portland. Urge the City of Portland to reconsider this ordinance and engage in a process that centers the experiences and voices of the houseless community in developing an ordinance that addresses the intent of House Bill 3115. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jessica Shellhorn online, followed by Sarah Rudolph.
Hello, I'm here to support the proposal. You'll hear a lot about vulnerable communities today, but no one seems to care the most about the most vulnerable community of all, our children. It's not fair. At 10 feet from his car seat, my toddler can watch someone shooting drugs into their arm at a stoplight. It's not fair to my kids or yours to see a dead body on the side of the road as we try to leave the house for hot cocoa. It's not fair for my kids or yours that on the first nice evening of the summer, after enjoying the family barbecue, our 12-year-old has to ask if we should go back inside as the sun sets because he does not feel safe within running distance of our own front door. Some people today will say the proposal is not fair to people experiencing homelessness. You know what is less fair? Dying alone in a tent, covered and filled with a needle in your arm. On Thanksgiving evening this past year, my family got a phone call from my sister-in-law that her sweet, lively, and adventurous 26-year-old daughter was found dead in a tent under the steel bridge. I will never forget the sound of my sister-in-law's screams or the way my mother-in-law crumpled into me that day. What the city has allowed is particularly not fair to the houseless community as an addiction pandemic ravages our city. The loudest opposition here today will be the nonprofit people who need to believe their ideas will work because their jobs depend on it. But when they're here to go back to one of the still nicer areas of Portland, patting themselves on the back while drinking their $6 oat milk latte. And immigrant communities of Portland are left trying to survive a next scary thing. Please support this proposal.
Next up, we have Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Rudolph. You heard. First of all, I would just like to point out that there are unhoused children as well. Perhaps are more threatened by the current situation than your post-barbecue 12-year-old. I'm going to express my disappointment that the city cannot come up with actual answers to these issues, even though the answers are in front of us. It is very disappointing that 5 years ago we decided that cops were not the people who should be interfacing with the homeless. We decided that 50% of homeless arrests, or 50% of arrests that the police make of homeless people are not doing us any good, and they're not doing the system any good. These police have stated that they are not trained or willing to do these interactions. So instead of continuing to put money into police response, what if we gave money to Portland Street Response, a proven successful program? What if we put money into treatment options, behavioral and mental health options that we were promised that we have no availability for? We do need more shelter space, but what if instead of looking at cities like Beaverton and Lake Oswego, which have nothing in common with us, look at cities like Seattle, who has recently established a public housing developer to build housing to put people in, which is another thing we don't have. That's all I got today. Have a great one.
Next up, we have Richard Perkins in person, followed by Tim Larson.
Welcome. Good evening. My name is Dick Perkins. I've been a Portland resident for 35 years, all of it housed. The last 18 years have been as a downtown resident. Before living in Oregon, I was a heroin addict, served time in both jail and prison, and experienced times where I was unhoused. I have compassion for those living on our streets. All people deserve housing, safety, and dignity, and a sense of purpose. Unfortunately, this county's, Multnoma's, policies for homelessness and behavioral health are making solutions harder by shrinking public support and chasing those who fund the solutions away from Multnomah County. I know quite a bit about homeless population downtown because we share the public spaces with each other and interact daily. Portland has always had a homeless population, and drugs and mental illness were often correlated with it, but never like we are seeing today. Over the past several years, the use of new and more addictive drugs among the unsheltered has grown dramatically, and along with it, the intractability of the solutions for homelessness. Irrespective of the reason someone is homeless, once homeless, it is easy to understand why people are self-medicating. Cheap, plentiful, and de facto legal drugs supplied by sophisticated cartels have changed the safety and livability environment for everyone, housed and unhoused alike. It has devastated the minds and reasoning ability of users and created unintended consequences. The county's lack of emphasis on good data about those on our streets, the housing first and harm reduction policies we've been trying to employ in the absence of good data, and some incompetent coordination have damaged the very businesses and residents who are funding the affordable housing we so badly need. The measure we passed to decriminalize drugs and prevent the criminal record that often comes with addiction has instead devastated the homeless population and killed way too many. Now we need to provide a path from addiction to a more stable life, which eventually includes housing and for many a job, a sense of self-worth, and with it, dignity. That will require more data about those living on our streets, a continuum of shelter and treatment options, and the way to that housing, and a greater engagement from all of us, not just a few people with lived experience. We need people who can make and execute a real plan and help develop a future for people after homelessness. I think this ordinance is a good start.
Next up, we have Tim Larson.
Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Larson, Portland resident since 1949. I'm here as an unbiased observer of the homeless situation in Portland and Multnomah County, someone who has personally worked with, interviewed, befriended countless homeless individuals over the past 3 years. I personally participated in the last 2 point-in-time data collections, completing 2 segments for each, interviewing over 100 homeless individuals. Past and current city councils have made serious errors in non-enforcement of long-held camping prohibitions that have previously been law for all publicly owned property in the city of Portland. You have a chance this afternoon to rescind these damaging and very expensive decisions and to return to some semblance of sanity to this city and its beleaguered citizens. I'm also a part-time Uber and Lyft driver, which has given me a perfect view of how illegal camps have grown over the years and the devastation they have created in our neighborhoods. In just the past 2 weeks, I have seen and heard the reactions of not only visitors to our city, but from 3 families that are leaving or have already moved to safer places to raise their children. During the past 2 weeks, I met the 79-year-old man who was viciously attacked, along with 2 other passengers and the train driver, by a mentally unstable homeless person in January on the Max. My heart has been broken many times in Old Town when I witnessed the mentally ill walking the streets in the pouring rain and 45-degree temperatures with no jackets and often with no shoes, only wet socks. I've been equally shaken by the dozens of rats scurrying across the streets nightly from tent to garbage piles to another tent. I'm begging you, please ban unsanctioned camping in Portland and stop the horrific crime wave that I am certain has affected you and some of your personal acquaintances. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Leslie Bianen. Leslie Bianen. Next, Doug Kryman. Doug Kryman. Sarah Fisher. Sarah Fisher.
Are we giving time to people who are outside that get through to get here?
If somebody hears their name in an overflow room, just get to the microphone or get to somebody. We will get to them. We're not going to exclude anybody. Good afternoon.
Hi again, friends. I'm still Sarah Fisher, the priest at St. Peter and Paul Episcopal Church on Southeast 82nd Avenue. I'm here because my faith binds me to respect the dignity of every human being. This ban suggests that unhoused citizens, people experiencing the humanitarian catastrophe firsthand, have less of a stake in the common life of our city than those who want them to disappear. It is convenient to embrace myths that keep us separate, The myth that they are transients when most of them camp fairly close to where they last had stable housing. The myth that shelters are a reasonable option when they are known for drama, drugs, and bugs. The myth that homeless people are different from us. The unhoused people that I hang out with listen to the same music that I do and root for the same sports teams. We share values and favorite foods. Like me, they are following the story of this ban and they feel that our city has failed them. We have failed if we want to get our neighbors out of sight rather than treating them with dignity and respect. This ban not only further separates us who are housed from those who live in tents, but is a cosmetic fix that makes things worse for all of us. What we need is not to spend more money jailing citizens as punishment for their very existence, but to work together with our most vulnerable neighbors. Please join me in respecting the dignity of every human being and deliver actual outcomes that address the actual homelessness crisis. Our city is full of people eager to make that happen. Thank you.
Next up, we have John Hollister. John Hollister, followed by Lauren Armony.
Welcome. I'm very fragile. Before I start, there's a little handout that I gave, and I didn't have enough copies for everyone. As you're reading through that, I just want to read a couple things. I have tremendous empathy. Oh, by the way, my name is John Hollister, and I'm a citizen here. I have tremendous empathy for our disabled citizens in wheelchairs. I can't imagine how frustrating the last few years have been because many of our sidewalks are blocked by tents. Not allowing tents during the day will allow one of our most vulnerable populations the freedom to travel on our public sidewalks. I also have tremendous empathy for our homeless living on the streets. No one, I've talked to many people who live on the streets and put through my outreach, and no one living on the streets has told me they're living their dream. With this ordinance, actually people don't live in the streets, they're living with tremendous levels of trauma. And this ordinance will actually cause additional trauma. And what I believe that needs to be met to, like the Rose Haven person said and the Blanche A House said, is we need to be able to invest in those daytime services, invest in higher levels of humanitarian outreach. I currently am associated with an organization that places over 20 people a week into shelters. And it's in a very, very small area. We work very well with the city, but what you'll see in front of you on the example is one, people don't worry about anyone being jailed because there have been signs up for a long, long time on ODOT property and things are being prohibited and no one's ever gotten a ticket. What we have on the second and third page is some of the operations that we did last May, where we moved 45, we helped 25 homeless neighbors get into shelter, cleared 45 tents, cleaned up the area to look like a park light, and then the ODOT decided to rip all of the tents down and create it into an area where there are actually filth and excessive trash. We removed 8 tons of trash. I know I'm going over. Yeah. And put down 35,000 pounds of bark dust to make the area clean. And I would like to have you guys support us being able to put those barriers up. I know I've talked to you, Commissioner Gonzalez, and now Commissioner Maps. I want to work with PBOT to be able to get some of those things back up. Thank you. Thanks, Charlie. Yeah.
Next up, we have Lauren Harmony.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Lauren Armany, and I'm from Sisters of the Road. Within the last 10 years, I also received the title of Unicorn simply for being a lifelong resident of Portland. We are so rare now because of the devastation left in the wake of the latest iteration of colonization, gentrification. Houses in Portland that were $70,000 in 1990 are now valued at over $1.2 million, over 17 times their value just 40 years ago. How is this allowed? This system is rigged. From Plymouth Rock to broken treaties to 40 acres and a mule and redlining, this system has always been rigged. To criminalize people who are forced to lose this rigged game is violence. To force people to make the choice between criminalization and your camps is violence. You're using our unhoused residents as scapegoats for your inability to lead. The federal government's disinvestment in housing services may not be your fault, but your lack of advocacy on behalf of Portland residents is. You shift the blame onto the county, the state, and the homeless themselves. You could be working towards solutions like guaranteed representation in eviction court, stricter rent cap legislation, high-quality public education, or mitigate literally any other inequity caused by capitalism and oppression, and you do nothing. Oh wait, you have done more than nothing. You continue to hand over the reins to speculators mining Portland for its cultural capitalism through tourism and leave the poor to pay the price time and again. Sweeps and camps do not end houselessness. They just attempt to invisibilize it. At what cost? $10 million to rapid response annually? How much goes to police, private security, entertainment fees? Millions of dollars for boulders under freeways, and now $10 million to urban alchemy a year? And this is without the enforcement of the camp ban. What is stopping you from just housing people? Because it sure as hell isn't money. This is unreasonable. Stop your war on the poor. Stop the camping ban. Thank you.
Next up, we have Finn Oviatt online, followed by Michael O'Callahan and Jamie Arcelay in person.
Hi, my name's Finn Oviatt. I use they, he pronouns. I don't have anything as succinct or impressive to say in opposition to this measure. I'm just a 22-year-old kid. I grew up here. In a part of town that I think a lot of people don't think about. I grew up in 82nd near Clackamas. You know, I've been at risk of houselessness a great portion of my life, and I can firmly say, like, I don't know that this is helpful. I mean, so many people have said, like, I think that we are collectively a lot smarter than this. I think that we're a lot more creative and imaginative. You know, I feel like there's better solutions. So many people have given so many ideas, you know, when they don't even have to. This is a lot of time. I mean, like, I've been sitting here for several hours just to speak, and, you know, I can't imagine, like, I don't know, actual houseless people currently living downtown coming here to say something. I mean, like, this is too much. They're too busy waiting in line. They're too busy, like, trying to, like, make it through the day without, like, imploding on themselves. I don't know. I want to believe that my elected officials are able to think of something better. You know, I know the response that a lot of you seem to have is like, oh, well, if you don't want this, well, what do you want then? And I think that's a pretty shitty thing to say. I mean, like, there's more than just the one option. There's a lot of gray area in the world. There's a lot more beautiful, creative things to happen, to do, to think of. Maybe that's just the art student in me speaking, but, like, come on. That's all I have.
We have Michael O'Callahan in person.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Michael O'Callahan. I've been involved with the unhoused issue for probably 20 years now. And you have heard referred to Martin v. Boise. You also can refer to at the same time O'Callahan versus the City of Portland, because I figured I was the first unhoused person to win a case before the Ninth Circuit Court. Thank you. Thank you. And the mayor said he would ignore that order, so that was interesting. I helped to start Right to Dream. I wrote their 501c3, so I have some experience. Okay. A couple of things that this ordinance doesn't do. It doesn't allow for the confiscation of private property. Okay. The city does that with impunity. There is the Fourth Amendment that says we shall be safe. I'm not. Okay, you sold my tents 4 times in the 2016 sweep. Okay? Now, this process here is a carrot stick process that is generally used by our government. Okay, and a carrot stick thing doesn't work so well. It's easier to hit them with a stick, right? This is a whitewash, is basically what it is. You guys want to supposedly go along with this state law. It's objectively reasonable that this law is not in compliance with the Constitution. Okay? What this law will do is kill people. Okay? What happens when somebody goes without sleep for 3 days? They're certifiably insane. You create this insanity, you create this drug addiction. This is not a solution. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Jamie Arcelay. Jamie Arcelay. Next, we'll go to Hopkins Laura. Hopkins Laura. Next, Christine Breton. Christine Breton. How about Rhea Hannon? Oh, Rhea Hannon, sorry.
Right.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Ray Hannon and I'm with Sisters of the Road. In my free time, I babysit for a kid who loves to climb trees. Is a police officer going to cite her for it? I know a Reed student who hammocks in Laurelhurst when the weather is nice. Is an officer going to interrupt her reading? What about my friend who swims in the river with her dog? Will someone call the cops? Say whatever you like, but I'm guessing not. But what about an unhoused person doing any of the same activities? We know exactly who these restrictions target, and it's not you, or me, or the kid I babysit, or my outdoorsy friends. It's unhoused Portlanders, who you continue to treat like perpetrators of a heinous crime. You criminalize, dehumanize, destabilize. Why? Countless studies have shown that unhoused people experience violence at twice the rate of the average person, and people with minoritized identities experience even higher rates. So many women and youth stay up all nights to keep themselves safe. The violence they experience will be intensified by the daytime camping ban and could be significantly reduced with access to housing. Oh, and to clarify, I don't mean urban alchemy camps. I mean stable, permanent housing. Not over-policing, not criminalizing human lives, not a camping ban. House keys, not handcuffs. You've known for over 10 years that Portland needs more housing. You failed to provide adequate shelters. You've known about HB 3115 and the July 1st compliance deadline since 2021, and you've had nearly 2 years to comply. Yet your inaction on both will now result in the criminalization of homelessness. So here we are, a month away from July 1st, with you citing time constraints as the rationale for forcing through this sloppy, unethical, ineffective plan. If you really want to talk about time time constraints, talk to an unhoused person traveling across the city to access food, resources, healthcare, even a chance for housing. Ask them what time constraints this daytime camping ban will impose. Listen to community advocates and people with lived experience. Work with us, respect us, hear us. Thank you.
Next, we have Evelyn Taroche online.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Taroche. I am a resident of Portland, Oregon. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in opposition to the ordinance proposed today. Making camping illegal does not solve homelessness, but instead creates more difficulty and suffering for those who are already disadvantaged. Housing and resources need to come first. If you are not providing permanent housing solutions, low-income housing, rent restrictions, and other housing assistance, then you are effectively criminalizing and making the existence of unhoused individuals illegal. These are members of the community, these are our neighbors, these are people in Portland who live here, and they have not gotten a say, and like others have mentioned, we need to start listening to the actual people experiencing homelessness, as well as people who advocate on their behalf and work with them every single day. You state that there will be a transition to shelters, not permanent housing. Working directly with unhoused community on and off since 2020, I have learned of various very valid reasons that people refuse shelters. These include safety, restrictions on belongings, inability to bring animals, including service or emotional support animals, and lack of privacy. Not only is criminalizing camping cause further harm and suffering, it also fails to solve the problem of homelessness, which is a failing on the part of this city and its government. It does nothing to provide housing or resources for those members of the community. If the issue is trash or human waste, as others have mentioned, then what is needed is services, not streets, and not a ban on camping. How many will die or be harmed at the hands of law enforcement simply because they needed a place to stay or exist during the day? Moving people from streets to jails does nothing to solve the problem. Where are they supposed to go? For all these reasons, I would like to state my extreme opposition to this ordinance. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jesse Presley Grusin online. Jesse, you're muted. Jesse, are you able to unmute? All right, we'll come back. We'll see if we can get Jesse.
Keelan, is that monitor about to go off? I can't see if it's, says something about turning off.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think we're on.
Great, thank you.
Make sure it doesn't turn off. Thanks. Okay, next up we have Dalen Russell. Dalen Russell.
Thanks.
Reverend Nathan Jimenez Nacional in person. Reverend Nathan Jimenez Nacional. How about Dominic Murphy? Dominic Murphy. Kaya Sand.
I'm Kaya Sand. I'm the executive director of Street Roots. It's a sad day, but the logical outcome of policy is that the most reliable shelter is jail. Instead, in a city where the arrests of 2017 were more than 50% unhoused people, when in 2018, over 50% of the arrests were of unhoused people. When in 2019, over 50% of all the arrests were of unhoused people. In 2020, over 50% of all the arrests were of unhoused people. That's the last year that's been measured. This is the lot of our policing. Most of the infractions are crimes of homelessness, and old offenses, and those old offenses will grow when we use citations and jail as penalization for actually just simply being housing. And then police will be essentially employed to continue to enforce this, attending courts for entire days. We're just soaking up our police budget, in fact, with a non-solution, but making life so much more difficult. This is bad faith to the constituents of Portland that you pursue policy that in fact invites lawsuits. I don't want us to be tied up in these lawsuits, and we know this is going to be challenged. I want to address democracy. You'll notice it's very, very difficult for unhoused people to testify. I'm here at Street Boots. We've got a sheet on the wall. People are lined up. They're watching. A number of people will be after me. But in fact, people have to bring everything that they carry when they go into City Hall. They can't go through the metal detector. Imagine what it's going to be after this ban takes place. So I just want to say, I want to see moral fortitude from our leaders, but in fact, what you're doing is you're breaking our collective civic heart. Thank you.
Next up, we have Annette Johnson.
Hi, my name is Annette Johnson. I go by Nanny. I'm a vendor here at Street Roots. And this is a complicated situation, okay? I live in Southeast Portland near the Woodstock area. And I want to say something to, what's the man's name over there that just won to Joanne Hardis DC? Situation because most of you guys got a place to stay. I asked you, were you the new commissioner? And you said, I'm trying to be. Or you were running, right? And I said, what do you plan to do about the homeless issue downtown? And you specifically said, I want to give them jobs. Okay, let's hold that thought. Carmen, how many homeless people are in Portland, Oregon right now? How many? You don't know. Okay, thank you. Men is men. Okay? You know that the reparation law they're trying to fight for, right? So you know what it's like to feel the sideline. Okay? Dan Ryan, who ran on your brother's death. Ed Wheeler has always held his position stern. He don't wait. He's not sweating money. But I was working in downtown Portland cleaning parking lots, and I resigned 3 weeks ago because it was so dangerous. I've been homeless and all that. We're not here for a sad story. But guess what? We all are the ones that's next to becoming homeless. What do you think?
Everybody in this room, even you guys.
Next up is George McCarthy.
We expected more from Carmen.
Hello everyone, my name is George McCarthy. Myself, I was homeless for almost 10 years, a long time in Portland. I understand the situation I've lived in, suffered a great deal of brutality, everything from beatings with sticks, fistfights, attacks with knives, I've been shot at and robbed at gunpoint, and what it's like to live outside. When I look at this proposition, I'm sorry to say, it looks very nebulous to me. There's nothing locked down about it, nor does it seem to have a specific plan at all. It's basically, we're going to do this, and it's up to you. Immediately when they make your life virtually a criminal just being alive, you have for 12 hours to be up, out, moving around, hustling your things back and forth. It leaves you prey, it leaves you open to all kinds of surveillance, all kinds of ill treatment. And it's dangerous for people, for women more than ever. I was homeless for a long time, suffered more brutality you can imagine, but women have it worse, far worse, and I worry about them all the time. And it makes it so much harder for the most vulnerable people in the city to even live or get by and move around. Now, when you realize, when you hear somebody say, what are you going to do, Portland? Are you going to make this attractive to investors or not? Or people that seem more disgusted and decided dead by it, and the fact that somebody said, we want to clean the city up. The virus is over, we want to go back to work. We don't want this to deal with this. And that's how you end up with a circumstance where you put together something without a clear endpoint. that leaves people so vulnerable to such danger and to such problems. This is not going to fix anything for anyone. It's going to make things possibly worse. And are you going to support it? You know, or are you going to have a separate task force to follow homeless people around? Give them a hard time. 30 days in jail can be 30 days too many, I can tell you. You know, these are not places you want to be. And to criminalize people for suffering this kind of sickness. I mean, we have had everything from the worst terror attack in history to horrible economic crashes, pandemics, drug problems. I mean, it is very hard for people. And we are suffering this because of gentrification. We are not homeless because we gave up our work. We're homeless because we can virtually drive out. Everybody wants to make money because we are the ones that are really, really suffering for it. And I really wish we take all of this into account. Ask them, just get some understanding, have a plan at least, before you lay this camera down on us. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Peter Salzman.
Okay, I will do that. Okay. What's wrong with all of this is something that nobody's mentioned yet. When you criminalize a group of people, say gypsies, well, gypsies steal. Not all gypsies steal. Gypsies drink too much. Not all gypsies drink too much. Not all homeless people steal. Not all homeless people take drugs. Those that take drugs, not all of them take drugs publicly. Not all of them throw garbage around. There are a lot of people who voluntarily sleep out of the flow of traffic and do only sleep at night and get up in the daytime and do things like everyone else. They would be embarrassed to be lying on the sidewalk at noon when other people are walking about, going about their business. When you penalize a group of people, when you criminalize people for looking a certain or sleeping in a certain place, you wind up criminalizing people who haven't done anything. They haven't done anything wrong. And when you do that, who you criminalize becomes arbitrary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Joseph Smith. Joseph Smits.
Okay. I know we got a little time frame, which is understandable, get everybody in. Been to regroup better now for 2 years. I've been a blessing. I'll over at ground score, goes around cleaning up the city. I'm on the payroll, but keep showing up daily to daily. I worked all my life. I was in the military. I did search and rescue missions. Been through a lot of stuff back in the military, as well as coming out and then experiencing homelessness, as well as people, elderly people have their home and they lose their home on some mistake. You know, when is their home supposed to be their home? You know, whatever happens with that. I don't agree with what you're trying to do, Mr. Wheeler, Mayor Wheeler. I don't agree with Mayor Douglas and some other people. If you've never experienced homelessness, sir, in your life, you don't know what it's like. If we put you out there for 30 days, I have two suggestions. Put you out there and other people for 30 days. With nothing. And you sit there and you survive. The great thing about Oregon, yeah, we do have a lot of food places to go. With some people with bad health, they can't access things, they can't get around. Some people, homeless or not, they work. Some of my friends and family, street groups, ground floor, people I meet every day. I work for regular jobs, I work for labor jobs, that's how I taught myself. I was adopted, long story short, when I said really short, I don't know what the time went. But my music teacher father saved me. I got blessed by being adopted by a music teacher and speech therapist. I went through traumatic stuff, and I'm still going through it. Every day, you walk out of your home, your camp, wherever you go, you gotta get ready for survival. You're surviving. There's bad people out there, there's good people out there. Bottom line, Oregon is a beautiful state. I've been coming here since I was 5 years old. The man in Uncle Hill, Hillsborough Farm. They look out today, because they plant deers and everything, they work their butts off to get where they're at. So, I don't agree with it. I know you guys are going to vote on it. I do agree with keeping the standards of the Constitution, and you're totally breaking the law on that. Freedom of speech, we all have rights. I agree that, yeah, okay, city, places, schools, yeah, we don't know where these people are coming out of jail. You know what? I just got involved with somebody that tried to kick in my girl's door the other day, and she told me. And as soon as I sit there and found out the guy who it was, he was right there in our perimeter. And guess what? We protect our family, we protect our own. I live by the military code, I live by the government code. You know what happens when the cops don't show up? We as a community have to come together. No matter about race, religion, I don't give a flying goose. You know, but bottom line, hey, also, one more little note. I'm unfair. So do it. Nobody gives you nothing. I know what it's like to be poor. I had family or whatever. I was hanging out with my grandma was wonderful. It wasn't my grandma and even my adopted grandma. You know. There's nothing against you, Mr. Wheeler. I know you got a lot of stuff on your hands. No, I will speak, and then you can't speak, so. I respect you, I respect people, because my heart follows that I have to respect authority, even if I don't agree with authority, but I have a right to fight. I be a voice for people. I don't care where you go. And we definitely need mental health positions in place. Behavioral mental health is big. Anybody that seems normal or whatever, we all go through stuff, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Be careful, because I might vote for you. Thank you. You're 2 minutes over. Thank you.
No 10-year plan. No 10-year. Now.
Everybody is step down. What you gotta say?
Next up, we have Joshua magnanimously.
He's still talking.
Hey, Kaya, was Joshua gonna testify from your account?
Why don't we step away from Street Roots for one speaker and get back to Kaya?
Okay.
Oh, wait, he's moving. He's moving.
Joshua magnanimously.
It's muted.
Joshua, can you unmute?
There we go.
Yep, we hear you.
Joshua magnanimously, I absolutely am opposed to this proposition. It's the horse in front of the cart. There's no system in place. It really needs to be a failings going from mental health all the way to a housing temporary position. But that takes a lot more time than 2 minutes. I wrote a few little excerpt. Undoubtedly dubbed the fastest shrinking city in the country is Portland, Oregon, MSNBC. The erratic behavior of being recluse, pay-as-you-go with no results, unafforded the opportunity of happiness in the pursuit of what gives us self-care, left houseless. Most staggering to the life expectancy is the quality of life in and of itself. Armageddon Post is a classless war of fascism. What the being defined as the federalist taxation, debtors, inadequate representation, failure in all systems being more than the inflation on our homes, groceries, and basic cost of living. What life expectations? The fact is, neurotic moral bankruptcies now pose as mental illness. Two-faced is co-deficiencies of selfish, witless insubordinates to COVID-19 and monkeypox, receiving more than the economy, blame shifting U.S. country as of today. The erroneous facts are the roaring 20s collapse of catastrophes. Absolutely not so fabulous and tutelage of those who don't even have the entrepreneurial spirit, draining every person in a circumstance without calling life, moral qualities, accepting those of self-service, defiance, and feeling unappreciated, however unawarded, doing the respect of commitment to our citizens, and unfortunately the constitutional member of our society no longer is it to be okay to be complacent in our community. And I have more, but I would hate to waste any more time.
Next up, we have Dwayne Reynoldson. Dwayne Reynoldson.
Oh, yeah. Hi, guys. I really don't like any of you. You guys don't like me. I'm homeless. I hit these streets in 1975 when 205 wasn't built. Who are you guys? Where do you come from? Are you a Portlander? Were you born here? Were you poor? Have you ever suffered? Have you ever had a natural disaster? Has your wife died? Has your children died? Did you get depressed? Oh, your family didn't love you, so you hit the streets at 13. I testify the way I want. Don't tell me I have to have the right to stand. Just as much as I have the right to talk. Check it out. I'm not scared of you guys. I'm not scared of you. You should be scared of us as the people. That's right. Mayor Ted Willard, your house is in the view of me seeing the hills of the trees. So is yours. 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 And everybody that's on this panel wants to play a game with the money that's been given to us to solve our problem.
Yes.
$3.2 billion? You did not buy one house. 17,000 ghost houses in this city.
Thank you.
And you didn't buy one homeless person a house, but you all own a fucking house. And I ain't scared. I got the right to swear. I'm an American.
That's right.
Not a United States citizen. I wasn't born on federal land. I'm sovereign. You hear me now? I'm sovereign, and so is everybody here.
Yeah.
The way you spell my name on my ID is wrong. My name is spelled capital D, lowercase u, lowercase a, lowercase n, lowercase e, capital S, lowercase c, lowercase o, lowercase t, lowercase r, capital T, capital R, lowercase e, lowercase y, lowercase n, lowercase o, lowercase l, lowercase d, lowercase s. I am an individual, not a corporation. You have no right to sentence me in any way under your corporate laws. I'm sovereign. Sovereign, so are they. We're Americans. And I'm a soldier. I'm a disabled veteran. Did you serve our country? Are you serving our country by being dirty people? Greedy. Filthy. Extremely greedy. Dirty people. Your families eat well. Well, I started as a sovereign American. You see how stupid I am? It's because you guys start us. You give me $58 a month to eat with? And how much do you eat at breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or just your fat cents? I'm not playing. I'm not scared. You better look at me. I've been here in them parts since Modern French was the largest building in downtown Portland homeless. I've watched you build. I've watched you be dirty. You selling our city to California? Giving our money away to California? Where are y'all from? Where are you all from? I never heard of you before. Where are you from? Are you? You're all
2 minutes
You
over.
sold our city to bankers.
You're going to have to wrap
You're
it
all
up.
good.
Hey, don't touch it!
Thank you. It's all right. All right, everybody, let's keep the temperature down, everybody. Let's keep the temperature down. Good, thank you. Appreciate it. Hector, thank you. Next individual, please. All right, thank you for your testimony. Let's give somebody else the mic. We heard you. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you. The next person, please.
Next up, we have Cass Johnson.
Get ready. I was here 14 years ago.
Okay, next up, we have Cass Johnson. Cass Johnson. Let's try Chris L. online.
Okay, my name is Crystal my pronouns are they, them. I do not support this ban. I understand that this will pass, and one of which shared what I was able to put together. What I'm going to share may sound like I'm talking about holding on to things, but I'm really talking about holding on to people, about holding on to community. I asked the question of why some people are allowed to hold on to material possession, especially when it's connected to tribal, when they matter to everyone and we all need them. This has long been a criticism of sweeps. Why must only some people be allowed to accumulate items that are meaningful, memorable, sentimental? I'm not going to talk about what my experiences are, but I have spent some time on it. Anyway, I'm going to imagine a magic wand because I think this ban is doing one that makes sense and all belongs to disappear into the air only to reappear 12 hours later. I understand that the effort is going to be placed onto the day shelters, and I really, that's important, but we really need to focus on housing. I think we also need to stop agreeing to believe the false claims that individuals and not the system are to blame for lack of housing. That the deterioration of our mental health due to substances, that Sundays may be the only thing that addresses for a day or for a few hours hopelessness and despair. How does the plan expect to work without hurting so many people? It certainly is not a safe people that are not right, especially women and gender non-conforming and trans people, as it was said, particularly during the day that they gave birth. Creative community is recognized as an essential human need. I say that journalism is turning into predatory. We need to stop pretending that everyone has the same power, and instead look at, in the words of Kennedy County, how our power is constantly being weakened and mind stolen by violence, societal injustices in our lives. Please don't know this man. Please find housing.
Thanks, Chris.
Next up, we have Michelle Hornbeck.
Welcome.
My name is Michelle Hornbeck. I'm a part of Welcome Home Coalition Housing Community Advocacy Committee. I'm also a person with lived experience. I'm here today to talk about the camping ban and how it criminalizes homelessness. Here are some of the reasons it's a dangerous and unsafe policy. To expect somebody to carry around all personal belongings for 12 hours is unreasonable. We have disabled people and we have veterans out there that are not able to do that. To expect people to put their stuff in your storage all day is also unreasonable. Some people do work, and if they're not off in time to get their stuff out of your storage units, then they just don't have anything for the night. Safety is an issue. We have women, we have children that are houseless, that to ask them to go to sleep at night is totally unrealistic. We don't sleep at night. That's when the mother in us comes out. That's when the survivor in us comes out. So no, we don't sleep at night. So to ask us to pack up and just stay awake so that we can at least stay alive is unrealistic. It's important for people to be able to sleep during the day. Some people have insomnia. They can't just go to sleep on a schedule. You talk about we have a housing crisis. We have a health crisis. There's no access to mental health treatment. There's no access to rehabilitation services. So if you want the people to do better, then damn it, you do better. And you must have forgot that we gave you a job. We the people gave you a job. And we can take that job from you. So if you want us to do better, get off your ass and do better yourself.
Next up, we have Ann Archie. Ann Archie. How about Mia Winters Cumming? Mia?
I'm right here. Hi, I am gonna just get right to the point because I've heard a lot of really good shit from everybody out here. And I used to live in the Queer Affinity Village. I moved in right at the beginning of COVID, and this is my compliment before I constructively criticize what you're doing. So it worked until you let All Good Northwest take over, and they're awful, lots of bad things to say about them, but literally you're just this is fucking ridiculous. You're I heard the word nebulous used earlier. That is what this is. Who are you trying? This doesn't just affect. I'm housed now. I live in an apartment, and I find myself walking between two worlds and trying to bridge the gap between the houseless community and the people that are housed. The only difference is that we have a roof over our head, and they don't. And I don't know. I was homeless for 5 years, and I saw homeless people taking care of each other way better than you. What you're doing with these encampments is forcing a bunch of people from all walks of life into, you're basically putting them in a giant death trap. I don't want to call them concentration camps, but it's borderline. I'm really nervous, and I thought y'all had skipped me. I really have a lot to add, but what you're doing is not going to work, and it's literally just a fuck you to taxpayers and real taxpayers, and Carmen Rubio, you're okay. You are so fucking safe.
Commissioner Matt.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, colleagues, I'm scheduled to testify before a panel of our federal partners now, so I need to step out for a few moments. I'll be back. Thank you.
Next up, we have Megan Brown. Megan Brown.
And just a heads up, we will be taking a break at 5:30.
Nick Chayachachkorn.
When are we reconvening after the break?
Nick Chayachachkorn.
When are we reconvening after the break?
Stop interrupting, please.
That's important information.
Next up, we
I'll
have.
let you know when we get to the break, which will be at 5:30. Thank you.
Next up, we have Josephine Welch. Josephine Welch. Next, Joanne Reese. Joanne, you're muted. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Joanne Lundstrom, Housing Team, making Lens a home for all our neighbors, speaking for myself. Restricting recreational and survival camping in certain areas and respecting ADA accessibility could be considered reasonable. However, before sentencing houseless neighbors to 12 hours of wandering, City Council needs to personally test walk this plan, an impractical knee-jerk response that will further traumatize unhoused and housed neighbors. Where do people go without being hassled for loitering or expected to be a paying customer on a 12-hour wild goose chase guided by 211? What seasonal weather emergency considerations are being made, setting up camp in the dark and wet? How are people, particularly houseless seniors and people with disabilities, expected to carry all day-to-day survival needs in a backpack for 12 hours at a time? How and where will this camping ban be enforced? Selective enforcement is discriminatory. Will whiter, more affluent Portland neighborhoods essentially become gated communities while diverse poor, and working class, unhoused, and housed neighbors, many of whom are transit dependent, get siloed into internment camps and blighted neighborhoods without resources, the better to contain and control them. What is the intention behind this plan? Before enacting an ordinance that will negatively impact entire communities and further traumatize the most vulnerable, unhoused, and housed neighbors, each member of City Council needs to take this plan on a test walk to assess its feasibility. Assume informed, responsible leadership. Leadership cannot be performed remotely. Arbitrary decision-making is fascist. In this case, City Council needs to literally and figuratively walk the talk. Housing first. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ben Stern. Ben Stern. How about Lyle Silver? Lyle Silver. Jenny Greb. Jenny Greb.
And Keelan, before you go on, just for people who are still in the overflow, I think the Portland building is closed at this point, so we have some folks in the Lovejoy room. You're welcome to stay there, but if you'd like to come into council, there are seats here available in the council chamber.
Great, thank you. Elise Christensen. Elise Christensen. Evan Cortez. Evan Cortez. Ava Proctor. Ava Proctor. Molly Hogan.
Welcome, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Glasses. Hello, my name is Molly Hogan, and I'm the director of the Welcome Home Coalition. I'm here today to ask the council to not enforce an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. camping ban, but rather focus on supplying restrooms, trash pickup, drinking water, and other hygiene supplies to make encampments more safe for everyone until sufficient housing access is a reality. There are many reasons these amendments are troubling, but one obvious one is that we know many people experiencing homelessness will not be able to comply due to the physical hardships such a requirement demands. Many living outside are elderly or experiencing disability, and the expectation to dismantle a tent and carry belongings all day is unreasonable. I asked Portland to learn from another hip city as a cautionary tale. Austin, Texas began having police enforce a camping ban on people experiencing homelessness in 2021. There was just a report released a few days ago describing the state of homelessness in Austin today, and it shows that there's actually been an increase in unsheltered homelessness, and people are camping more on the city's edges and in more remote, less visible green spaces. This makes it much harder for outreach workers to connect people with services and housing. Let's learn from Austin's experience, and instead of making the same mistake, the City of Portland can invest in ensuring people living outside have easy and continual access to hygienic resources while waiting on a pathway to housing. Let's also focus on investing in a thriving community social services workforce. The very human experience of suffering from mental health and drug addiction challenges we see in our streets can only be addressed by being met with the human experience of connection. Connections that are being built by the compassionate, hardworking, peer support specialists and case managers showing up every day in our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Isabel Hernandez. Isabel Hernandez. Arman Singh. Arman Singh. Grace Kennard. Grace Kennard. Lee Schutzlein. Lee Schutzlein. Draven Ford. Draven Ford. Theo Spain. Theo Spain. Bree Higgins, Adrian Watson, Keely Higgins.
You know I'm here.
First they come for the tents and tarts. Am I right, Renee? Thank you for the time. I'm not thanking this council. I'm definitely not thanking Ted Wheeler. I'm thanking every person who's behind me right now, every person who showed up today, who's outside right now because they were barred from coming in, those who are watching from home, and to the folks who couldn't make it to this meeting because of the inaccessibility of this scheduling. We are all here to stand up to you, Ted, to you, Carmen, and Dan, and Renee, and Mingus, and say no to this inhumane and violent ban. We will not let you eradicate an entire community. You're sitting here in hate and greed, and we are showing up with radical love for our neighbors, our community members, our friends, our family. We come week after week to fight the step-by-step process that you are all creating toward a total state of fascism. And make no mistake, this will be all y'all's legacies. All of you. Whatever modicum, and I use this term so fucking loosely with y'all, good you've done for this city will be forgotten, and your efforts to dehumanize and eradicate a group of people, all while getting a yearly salary upwards of $125K, $150K for Tevis, will be all that you are remembered for. Do not pass this ban. Work with your constituents. Work with the people that are here. Work with your city. Do not work with the Portland Business Association, though they definitely pay you much more than we can. Work with the people who this ban would harm. If you've noticed, I've been using the word people a lot. Just a reminder, you are playing Nazi with a population of human beings who have every right to be here in this world and in this city as you. I would argue that they deserve to be in your houses and plural mansions for fucking Ted Wheeler over here. All of us here, we're 2 feet on the goddamn ground, and we're running at you with more tenacity, more grace, more empathy, and more hope than all of your small minds combined could imagine. Do your best as public officials and be on the correct side of history. Let go of your ego, your sense of entitlement. Work to deconstruct your external and internalized white supremacy. Stop the sweeps, give people money, give people permanent housing, and if you can muster up just 1 ounce of goddamn compassion today, then you say no to this ban. Protect and support the people of this city. Don't tell us we don't matter. Don't tell us to shut up. Yes. Don't tell us to go away. Don't discount us. Your position is voted in and it is voted out. You will fade and we will continue to be here. If you burn this community to the ground, we'll just make a new one on your fucking ashes.
This is a good time to take a break. We'll take a 15-minute recess.
Don't kick them all back.
We're a cocktail dealer. Loving talk.
It's reconvening in 15 minutes, by the way.
Hey, Ted.
Tell us. Yeah.
Hey, Ted. You did tell her. Hey, Ted. Does your wife make you sit in the cuss chair when members of the Portland Business Alliance like rail to real hard tonight? I bet you do. I bet you sit in that cut chair, don't you, say it, Ted? You love that cut chair, don't you?
California.
Hey, Ted, you buck back for the Portland Business Alliance. I bet you do. I bet you buck back real hard, don't you? You clap dance for that, don't you, Ted? You love it.
Yeah, oh yeah, such a hassle. I don't understand how people like advocacy. Well, that's my parents. First, like every person's here. That's the fun part, is like all these people are saying don't do it, and they're gonna pass it. I don't know, although somebody's definitely gonna say yes.
She's okay, well, nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Justin. I don't know. Yeah, it's just so I'm not in recovery, but I'm you know, an activist, I'm a reductionist, and so I'm like I'm an ally. I just don't want to I need to own that being a normie, but
oh yeah, who cares? As long as you're doing the work, yeah. Oh yeah.
See what summer brings.
I'll try to watch the time. I didn't know to sign up. You know, the only all both of them. Trauma. And then how do they say that process? You're not about to respond. A trauma that tells you it's not good enough. It's not. When you're used to that trauma that brings you down here, and then all of a sudden it's non-conflict. Just stand there and walk away. No consistency, no behavior. That's hard. It's hard. But it's the beginning of support system to teach you that people are telling you this because they want But we don't know that. Not until later in the learning to really understand how to better understand it.
Thank you for filling in the session. We'll resume public testimony.
Next up, we have Tina Prettyman Silver.
Welcome back.
Hi. So, my name is Tina, and I was homeless for 7 years. We say COVID is a scary thing, but I'm telling you, with all the bads, there was some good. And that good was that some people that were high risk did become housed. I would not be housed right now if COVID hadn't happened, still. Being homeless is scary. You look over your shoulder every day. Every day is a new challenge. Every day is pushing through the day to get through. It's hard. No one wants to be out there. I don't care. Circumstance puts people there. Not everyone's on drugs. Not everyone's bad. Not everyone has criminal records. Sorry. People are people. We're not invisible. We will never be invisible. We all deserve to have a home, a place to feel safe, no matter what that home looks like. Right now, people have tents. They have blankets on the street. They have lean-tos. They have trailers, whatever the case is. A home is where you are. Your home is where you live. That is where you are. It's not always bricks and mortar. It's not always wood. It can be anywhere you're at. That's your home. And you deserve to be safe, to feel loved, to feel cared about, to be respected as a person, because we're all people. We deserve that right to feel comfortable where we're at. And we need housing. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
We deserve housing. Everyone deserves housing.
Thank you.
Our next two testifiers are going to join virtually. It's Nicholas Peterson and Derek Avery. Doesn't look like they've joined us in Zoom yet. We have Katie Reinhardt. We're going to join in person. Mystery Penna. Sam Andy. They were going to join virtually.
Megan has some.
Oh, it looks like there's a.
Hi, Derek.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Great, thank you. So, as stated, my name is Derek Avery. I am a resident, a taxpaying community member, and a homeowner in the city of Portland. And heard a lot of testimony, sharing facts, opinions, and personal experiences regarding homelessness in the city, on potential solutions. Many were shared much more eloquently than I ever could. I mainly wanted to bring representation in this council as a community member who is both a homeowner and who believes that we should not further criminalize homelessness and that we should instead embrace creativity and empathy in helping with the marginalized and housed folks within our communities. It strikes me that to even propose legislation like this will undoubtedly harm our community members with continued lack of accountability, that those people who approve this path are not in community with those who will be harshly and unfairly impacted the most. And note that I didn't say have seen or spoken a word to some of these unhappy. The presentation at the beginning of the session noted that the city is supposed to comply with the reference House bill, but also stated that the city can agree that they didn't have to introduce stricter, read harsher enforcement policy to support it. And the inhumane approach to addressing this issue of homelessness is egregious, and it seems that it's mainly due to the fact that it doesn't impact any of you who are creating these policies. So please listen to those who are getting impacted by this the most and who are getting harmed. Please consider that to propose these solutions of further stricter laws and enforcing these laws harshly without providing housing for real solutions there, that you're just harming more people and perpetuating this issue that we're trying to address.
Thank you.
Next two testifiers are Char Penny and David Potts.
Hello, this is Char Penny. I was there earlier this morning when we were doing the ADA. I'm in support of item 451. City code needs to be updated to restrict street and sidewalk camping throughout the city of Portland between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. in order to reclaim Portland and make it a safe and livable city again. We need to start taking serious steps to clean up permanent structures, accumulated garbage, and hazardous waste on our sidewalks and the city streets. After spending 3 hours cleaning a small area of the sidewalk and streets around Lentz downtown, it is quite clear that the homeless situation is out of control and we can no longer support and endorse this type of living condition on our streets. Starting here is hopefully a step forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move streets!
And next is David Potts.
Hi, David. Looks like you're muted. There you go.
Thank you. I'm David Potts, a Portland resident for over 40 years. I raised my 4 children in a Portland that sadly no longer exists. I'm glad they moved elsewhere to raise their families in more family-friendly and safer cities. I'm a longtime proponent of livability for the Lentz neighborhood. Lentz, like much of East Portland, has ever diminishing livability and has already seen gentrification as a result of eviction restrictions that make Portland untenable for mom and pop landlords. Homeowners that can afford to moving to safer places. Council agreed earlier today to the settlement in the suit to require the city to comply with the provisions of the Americans with Disability Act. Now the city will be required to keep public sidewalks clear of homeless encampments. This is a good first step. The city now needs to keep public sidewalks and public spaces accessible to all of us who live and work in Portland. Our sidewalks are scarcely a better place than the mud pits in East Portland that are home to many on Portland streets. It is not compassionate, it is not humane. We need to find better places for our unhoused to live. That said, it's time to keep the public sidewalks clear in the daytime. You owe it to all Portlanders. A lot of money is being spent to build very expensive housing, and it's doing little to reduce unsanctioned camping. No matter how much housing is built, without mental health and addiction services and willingness to behaviors, many will not stay in that housing. It may feel unkind, but the truth is that it will take tough love to get many to choose.
Affordable housing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Avery Temple.
Welcome.
My name is Avery Temple, and I'm here to testify against the proposed ban today. I'll keep it short. To ban camping is to legalize the persecution and death of people who are unhoused. I would know. I was unhoused for much of my adolescence. Folks who are houseless are the very people you fail to protect and provide resources for, and who will be filling your jails, who will be assaulted or murdered by the police, who will die in the cold during winter or suffocate in the smoke of the inevitable fire season. Most of these people are Black, Indigenous, people of color, youth, trans, queer, disabled, but y'all already know this. This ban shows just how out of touch, deeply troubled, and cold-hearted y'all truly are. If I'm being honest, I have little to no faith that those of you with power will do the right thing. Knowing that, my message is for those who are here today, opposing this ban, who care and who feel like something must be done to prevent this unnecessary cruelty. This is not the reality we want or need to live in. The city and the state do not care for us and never will, as long as there's profit to be made from killing us. Let's stop wasting our time appealing to those who march us towards an ugly, unlivable future. Regardless of their situation or background, what we have or haven't done, everyone deserves safe housing. We know this. And so we must take care of each other. We must be creative, rebellious, and brave in our strategies. Now is not the time to play by their rules, their laws, or what they deem acceptable. Now is the time to come together, to act, to build the world we want to live in, and to fight for it. If they won't do what's right, then we will. We must house the unhoused together by any means necessary. Thank you.
Next up, we have Becca Kruger, and they were planning to join virtually. Let's move on to Tamara Chaikin. So looks like they joined us. Dylan Silvis. They were planning to join virtually. EDT. Move on to Jorge Sanchez Bautista. Sean Hardy. They'll be in Zoom.
What happened to Edie?
Sean, are you able to unmute?
Hello, I'm here. Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to say that I was homeless for 3 years as a youth. And the only reason why I'm now not homeless is because I had kind people with privilege that they held to help me find a space where I can be myself and educate myself freely. But I know that I'm always paycheck away from homelessness, and I rely on welfare to get myself through each month for food and health care. This bill will impact people like me, or will become a fear of houselessness every day, and it's a very possibility for every one of us, especially us working class folks and marginalized folks. I had to sleep in public before. Many of my peers had to do the same, sleep on the streets because they were unwelcome with their own homes that they grew up in. Many shelters will kick us out anyway if we break a rule, and many of those rules are to nitpick those who are going to be discriminated more, such as Black, Indigenous people of color, and LGBTQ and trans folks. People say, just go to a shelter. When many shelters here in Portland are constantly full and dangerous for some of us. To some people, the times that this bill will restrict camping will only hurt them, as some of them need to rest in the daytime to avoid risk of sexual assault. And this can happen from perpetrators who are not hapless. All my peers who were or still are homeless right now are working while living in the streets. And there's the stereotype that houseless folks choose to be houseless when many people just like me were kicked out from our own homes because of discrimination, because of the anti-idea. If you care about BIPOC folks, LGBTQ folks, and children, as I was once a child myself in this situation, you will not go through this bill. It hurts everyone, not just the folks who are sleeping in the streets right now, but the possibility of homelessness is something that does not discriminate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back to EDT.
Thank you. I'm Edie. I'm a student. Sorry, I have some notes. I want to reiterate something that Ed said, which was that many of the people that came here to testify don't necessarily believe that our words are going to have an outcome on the effect of the vote, and that we're just here to be here. And many folks that would be here to present weren't able to make it as a result of various disabilities, physical and then mental health problems that are being severely exacerbated by our collective failure as a house population to engage with the homeless community and to protect the most vulnerable members of our city. And I'm testifying here because I can. I have the time and I can drive myself here. I think that the majority of the people here in person are here because we really believe firmly in the power of community and of love and severe compassion. And people are really scared for their lives and the lives of their friends and their family. And we're here essentially begging you not to follow through with the proposal because we are scared. And it's the people with hate in their hearts that are pushing a violent and perverse rhetoric about the homeless community in the city, and we can't embolden them with policy that's going to just further modern forms of class segregation. It needs to be condemned. We can't talk about people and synonymize them with needles and trash. I think it's inappropriate. And I think that all of us are going to feel the brunt of it, but it will be the unhoused folks that are going to die. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry I went over time.
The next 5 individuals are planning to join virtually, so I'll just make sure they're not in person. We have Fardosa Anahata, Todd Littlefield, Sam Cohen, Alexis McCain, Alex Matthews, and Isaac Till Watson. We'll move on to Rebel Black and Frank Blackston.
Hey there, sorry, I just popped back on and you called my name.
Hey, Frank.
Hi, everybody. I don't have anything stupendous to say. I just want to voice my support for this agenda item. I know it's controversial, but everything feels out of balance right now. So I think it's a step in restoring balance. And I will say, I hear a lot of people screaming at you at shelters. I gotta remind everybody, counties in charge of shelters. Anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joint office.
Oh wait, I heard that. Yes, let's rephrase. The joint offices. Let's just talk to them.
All right, thanks, Frank.
Next we have Piper Cronin. Doesn't look like they've joined us. Courtney Cox. Hazel Jordan. We have Songa McLaughlin. Isabella Gurnick.
You saw me walking up here.
My colonial name is Demetria Hester, which y'all should already know, because I maced Jeremy Christian the night before he went on his rant. Right? You remember me, don't you, Wheeler? Huh? The same person that you came so smugly and said, you get to make the decision, right? But we're the community. Who pays your salary? Who pays your salary, Rubio? Who pays Matt's salary? Ryan, who pays your salary? Gonzalez, who pays your salary? We do. But you sit here so smug and so self-entitled because you're white men. Because you have money. You've lined your pockets with the money you're supposed to give to the community in your pockets. Are you homeless? No, you would never be homeless because you're white. You're a white man. And you feel entitled, don't you? Don't you? Because you pay your way everywhere you go, don't you? Yes, no? Or you don't have nothing to say now. But yet you wanted to shut us down when we was talking, letting you know that this is a capitalist system that you created. Now it's houseless people. At first it was black people, police commissioner, which is going to make money over hand, building more prisons to house houseless people. Aren't you going to become rich, Rubio, saying that, oh, you're against it, but look who you are with. How can you be against it, but look who are you with? This is just a lie. It's all bullshit. You know it. Y'all have already made the decision, like you say, Mayor Wheeler. You're not our mayor. You appointed yourself mayor by paying for it. July 1st, when this comes in effect, be ready for what you had to deal with in 2020. Us in the streets. Be ready. Be ready, because we're coming for your jobs, your houses, your cars. What are you going to do then? Decide. Because we're coming for you, Ted Wheeler. Fuck you.
All right, we've got into the personal threat phase of the council session. Who's next? Who's next?
Threats so unnecessary.
Hello, my name is Isabella. I'm speaking here today on behalf of Free Lunch Collective, a mutual aid group here in town providing meals and supplies to our unhoused neighbors on a weekly basis. We've seen time and time again how people have been terribly impacted by the city's policies, which essentially criminalize poverty. Proposing to ban camping for 12 hours of the day and punishing those who have nowhere else to go with jail time or fines is not the solution to this crisis. People aren't living in tents because it's fun, they're doing it because it's their only option. I've worked at shelters in town and I've seen how difficult and confusing it is for people to access limited shelter beds. Why are we not addressing the root cause of the issue? Portland's rent is way too expensive, as raised by 30% in the last decade alone. As of January of 2023, landlords in Oregon can now increase rents by up to 14.6% per year. Last year, the cap was 9.9%. Every month, there are between 400 and 1,100 evictions filed in Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County. That's between 13 and 36 households every single day, the majority of those being for non-payment of rent. The average one bedroom in Portland is $1,500 per month, and somebody working full-time at a minimum wage job is only going to make $2,360 per month, and that's before taxes. That's barely enough to cover rent, utilities, transportation, and food. There are already 4 vacant homes and apartments for every single person who is homeless in Portland. Homes sit vacant while people die needlessly on the street. What we desperately need is rent control. The problem here is greedy landlords and the politicians that enable and benefit off of that greed. I'd strongly urge all of you to vote no on the camping ban, although I'm sure you'll just listen to all of us and then go right ahead and do whatever you were planning on doing anyways. So, that's all I have to say.
We have Kelby South, Jamie Young, Emma Cooper, Cassidy Schober, Kim Doty.
Kim's here.
Kim, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear. Well,
Okay. Hi, my name is Kim Doty. I'm a Portland homeowner for the last 18 years. I'm also an ICU nurse for the last 25 years, so I've seen quite a bit of pain and suffering in my career. I've had 2 children go through Portland public schools, completely through the school system. I've been living in Southeast Portland the whole time I've been here. I volunteer as a healthcare worker at the Everly Project, which is a harm reduction program here in Southeast Portland. And I am surprised that my ICU nursing job didn't really prepare me for what I have seen over the last few months of volunteering there. This law is cruel, it's inhumane, it causes harm to human beings. I think we are all educated people. We know that we all need to have our basic needs met to be able to succeed and move forward in life. And what I'm seeing from our houseless neighbors is hunger, obviously no shelter, no water, no heat in the winter, no way to get out of the cold, and no way to get out of the heat and elements. Every day is a crisis. I'm taking care of people who are disabled. They have veterans who have PTSD, pregnant women, LGBTQ and trans folks who are targeted and afraid to sleep during the nighttime, so they sleep during the daytime, which I know that you've heard over and over. These people are in medical need. They're really hungry and thirsty, and like I said, every day really is just a crisis. And I feel like this law would really turn over their health care and their needs to police and turn our jails into shelters. And I think that's a really, really bad way to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim.
Next is Lejeune Thorson.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Lejeune Thorson. I live downtown, and I'll be brief. We all need our sidewalks back. I empathize with our neighbors, housed and unhoused, who have physical or vision disabilities as they attempt to navigate our sidewalks. We depend on businesses such as restaurants and retailers to keep Portland viable. Our businesses need to be revitalized by more foot traffic. We all deserve to feel safe, whether we are housed or unhoused. No one should live in squalor, as some of our homeless neighbors do. Everyone should have hope. I wish there were no drug epidemic. I wish the mentally ill would get help before they risk homelessness. I wish wealth disparity wasn't widening. But until society can solve these problems, we must deal with the reality we have, and we must change what we can change. Safe Rest Villages, the Queer Affinity Village near where I live, the shelters offered by nonprofit groups, and the large temporary shelters currently in development are a good start. This measure is another step in the right direction, and I hope you will pass this. Thank you for listening, and thank you for listening to everyone who is here today.
Thank you.
Next is Annie D'Amata.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear. We see you as well.
My name is Annie D'Amata. I'm a social worker who's been working with Portland's unhoused community for nearly a decade. I co-founded an organization called the Every Project that provides services to over 200 unhoused people every week. Our people are hungry, they're sick, they're desperate for survival and basic needs. What we see every day are living conditions that would shock many of the more privileged people in this room. And that's what this is about, right? What I've heard here today is massive inequity and injustice disguised as a pragmatic plan to end homelessness. I'm not buying it. It's about the haves versus the have-nots. It's profit over people. And you will not end homelessness with this plan, but I think you already know that. In fact, you will make it so much worse. Let me be clear, you are killing people with these sanctions. You're making it harder for those of us who are trying to tend to our neighbors with care and compassion. Over the past few months, my job has consisted of sitting with people who have experienced relentless encampment sweeps, helping them process the extreme trauma and loss of stability that this is causing. I've held people as they sob, tended to hopelessness, suicidality, and fear. It has been a hard year working on the front lines. If this new ban is passed, we are going to see it get so much worse. You will create more health disparities and you will be killing people. If you want a real plan to end homelessness in a caring and compassionate way, look up into the gallery or go out onto the streets. The experts are here. We show up every day and we already know the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Angela Ice. Angela. And we have Charlie Lilquist. Vicki Payne.
I see Vicky. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, my name is Vicki Payne, and I'm here to, I'm a resident of the neighborhood in North Portland. I'm here to support and thank Mayor Wheeler for proposing this update to the city's code to set camping restrictions, which are, as we explained earlier, legal to do so, and seemingly being enforced this way in every other jurisdiction under the Martin v. Boise decision, except Portland and Illinois County. This topic mentions that fact. Sleep is not illegal, setting sleep hours isn't cruel, we have options available, and the county has plenty of money to create more daytime options. Camping have to pack up and move during the day will eliminate a lot of the health and safety hazards and crime that come with the garbage piles to certain larger campsites and eliminate the need for millions of dollars to biohazard zones. Of course, we are criminalizing or solving homelessness with the county set up more legal sanctioned places for people to go. But enough is enough. We have to stop allowing people to refuse help because they feel like staying outside on the street. Too many are taking advantage of our lax laws and empathetic demeanors and breaking the societal contract. We all have to be together, housed and unhoused. The 2020 count shows that 65% of those surveyed arrived in Oklahoma County without shelter from another state. We have to stop if we want and making it uncomfortable to stay permanently in one spot outside day after day is one way to deter people from relocating here and also having the effect of bothering existing campers so they will finally accept the offers of assistance they've been given. Eventually, having campers in only sanctioned areas will help us truly help them. This proposal is a step in the right direction towards our goal of ending the need to sleep outside on the streets. And I hope everyone here today shows up working tomorrow morning at 9:30 and expresses these wishes that you are putting on the city because this is the county's and they are doing their code. Yes, it's called the joint office, but the city only gives them money. They don't have any say.
Not true.
Thank you.
Next is Laura Taki. Angela Garcia. Daniela Del Mar.
Hi, that's me. Hello, my name is Daniela Del Mar. I've lived and worked as an educator and an artist in Multnomah County for over 14 years. According to the Airbnb property investment Portland website, airbnb6.com, an average host in Portland can earn up to $33,348 during peak seasons. There are over 3,342 Airbnb listings in Portland. According to Multnomah County's 2022 point-in-time count, an estimated 5,228 people are experiencing houselessness. I wager many people are not recorded in this number. With only approximately 2,000 shelter beds available, people are living in tents and tarps on sidewalks and in vehicles across the city. That same study found that 38.5% of houseless people reported suffered from mental illness, 26% from physical disability, and 37.5% from substance abuse disorders. Published by the Salem Reporter, quote, decades of deinstitutionalizing mental illness locally and nationally have made it impossible to meet the increasing demand for mental health care. Oregon has less than 1/10 the number of state hospital beds for mentally ill patients than it had in 1950. Neil Routman, Interim Deputy Director of Multnomah County's Mental Health and Addiction Services Division. The tourism industry and homeownership opportunities exclusive to upper and middle classes, combined with decreased mental health and support services over the long term for the houseless population, are unequivocal compounding factors in the current housing crisis, among many others. The Multnomah County transient lodging tax, projected at $29 million in annual revenue in the 23 budget review, should already provide sufficient funding resources for expanding mental health, addiction support, and other social services exclusive to the houseless population, as well as permanent housing solutions. Any proposal to ban camping without first providing housing and mental health services only seeks to whitewash the writing that's already notable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Andy Miller.
Good evening, Mayor Wheeler, members of the council. My name is Andy Miller. I'm here on behalf of Our Just Future, an organization formerly known to you as Human Solutions. We provide a continuum of responses to our crisis, including shelters, housing and jobs programs, and affordable and supportive housing. I want to start by just noting there's a lot of agreement in the room tonight, despite some of our deep disagreements. We all want to end our homeless crisis. We all support a humane approach to that work. We all want to see more housing and shelter options across our city and county. And we all agree that what we are already doing is not enough, that we must act with more urgency to right the ship. But here's where we disagree, that these restrictions are a reasonable, humane way to achieve our shared objectives. I submit. The restrictions in these provisions are unreasonable. Criminalizing daytime camping is in no way reasonably related to the objective of ending houselessness or better connecting people to services or housing. A daytime camping ban is not a humane response. I share with you the notion that leaving people outside without a decent home is inhumane. It's twisted logic to assert that asking people to pack up and trudge around with their belongings for 12 hours at a time under threat of penal consequences somehow increases the humanity of their situation. The timing here makes no sense. We have yet to build sufficient housing or even safe places for people to lawfully rest. It is simply cruel and premature and likely unlawful to ban camping at this time in this way. Let's build the remedy before we invoke the penalty. Mayor Wheeler, you mentioned the sacred nature of democracy, and I appreciate that. But let's remember the countless examples in our own American history of how a democratic majority quickly, easily, and brutally have discounted the basic humanity of their fellow human beings of more humble needs, often Let this not be one more example of the tyranny of the loud majority of needs, stomping on the humanity of those most vulnerable.
Next is Crystal Delahanty.
Hi, my name is Crystal Delahanty. I'm the founder of PDX Saints Love and also a community health worker. We are a direct outreach organization. We make about 340 unduplicated contacts a week. So we literally live and breathe the stories of the people. I've grown up in East Portland. I will admit that my heart is broken over the state of our community and that there is evidence of a severe emergency. It's hard to look at, and I recognize the impact on poor neighborhoods, especially the one I grew up in. Families in neighborhoods who are struggling are having to experience the worst of this crisis. But this proposed ban is coming from a reactionary place based on the trauma that we are all experiencing. We must stop and regulate those emotions towards thoughtful solutions that are sustainable and support every human. Those solutions must be holistic and collaborative. Oregon ranks 50th in the U.S. for providing access to addiction treatment. It ranks 49th in providing access to mental health care. Oregon ranks the worst in the nation for access to youth for mental health and behavioral care. Multnomah County Joint Office underspent their supportive housing service budget by more than half last year. We must be willing to recognize that there are severe systemic issues that need to be addressed to make any kind of lasting impact in the crisis that we're facing. While community health workers are down here just trying to hold the goddamn seams together, you are wasting our time proposing we erase humans from sight during the day. We as a city have failed the people. And now, rather than take the time to create addiction treatment services, pay livable wages to peer support and housing specialists, to social workers, rather than bolster up our mental health care system, invest in programs and rapid rehousing for our youth, and find out why the hell Joint Office underspent $43 million last year, rather than take responsibility for the ways our systems have continually failed people, you are proposing to further traumatize poor people with the threat of criminal action. I ask that you reconsider implementing any ban on public camping while we take a hard look at why and how we allowed ourselves to get here in the first place.
Next is Jeffrey Liddycoat.
So I almost decided not to say anything here today because people have said an awful lot of things that if you guys would just listen, then you wouldn't do this. If you do this anyway, I'm sorry, but you're idiots. I have been active in local politics for a long time. I'm not homeless, I'm not houseless, but I choose to live outside. And to the guy that said, oh, I don't know anybody who's living their dreams outside, ever since I can remember thinking I wanted to live outside. And I'm living my dream right next door to people who are living a nightmare. Some of them by their own doing, some of them as a result of the circumstances, most of them as a result of public policy. The Reagan cutbacks in the housing programs, the criminalization of drugs, ongoing racism, what we did to natives in this country, most of it is our fault. This bit where you guys are saying, oh, acting like, oh, I'm a humanitarian because there's a big humanitarian crisis out there. And so I'm not getting the public to swallow hook, line, and sinker the bullshit that this program is somehow a humanitarian program is mind-boggling to me. If you had the least little bit of humanitarianism in your hearts, you wouldn't have rapid response out there telling people who don't have legs to move. They'd be helping them. A little bit of discernment in these programs in your policies. Yes, get people off the sidewalk. Help them get off of the sidewalk. Not doing that is, when people say that this policy is killing people, it's killing people. For the able-bodied people, it's nothing new under the sun. Ever since the beginning of time, the haves have victimized the have-nots, and whoever has the least is victimized by whoever's just a little bit above them. So this is just more of the same old, same old, same old, and all you're gonna get from that is the same old stuff.
Next is Cass Doka. They were planning to join virtually. Kelly Lanspa, also virtual. Mateo Gutierrez.
That's me.
Welcome.
Hello, I'm 17 and I live downtown, and I oppose this camping ban. I'm not afraid when I go to my Mac stop to go to school, and I'm not afraid of the conversations I have with the people that this ban would criminalize. Yes, I've been harassed by unhoused people, but I've also been harassed by housed people. Anyone has the capacity to be harassed by someone, or for people to harass others, but people who are in a crisis are more used to reasoning with violence. The best way to end this violence and harassment is to get them out of their crisis. A simple solution to homelessness is housing, such as the Housing First model, which gives people housing so they can effectively address the issues affecting them, such as mental illness, addiction, or escaping poverty. The model shows that around 73% of people who went through this model have stayed housed after a year of the program. I know that housing people, short and long term, is cheaper than camp sweeping, because camp sweeping only deals with the symptoms of homelessness. It doesn't solve it. So instead of criminalizing poverty from being in the public eye, we can be more of a friend in helping our fellow person in one of the main root problems, rather than hiding it to keep a good-looking city, rather than a just city.
Thank you.
Next is Dan Orney. They're in Zoom. Dan, are you able to unmute? We'll come back to Dan. Veda Hernandez. Daniel Curtis. Maggie Powers. Let's go back to Dan. Dan, are you able to unmute? Marina Haven.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm speaking on behalf of my wife, Marina Haven.
That's fine.
My wife, Marina, is a teacher of 7th grade right now. They wanted to share a statement they wrote for themselves and on behalf of Faye, Shannon, LaRonda, and Missy, all women they met at Portland Rescue Mission, all of whom shared the struggles of trying to navigate a broken system. This is what they have to say. I went through the shelter system and it's dehumanizing. I got a lot of help from the city, so there are good things that come from getting those services. Like Central City Concern, they basically saved my life and helped me tolerate getting through being homeless. However, living in a shelter was the worst part of being homeless. People working in the shelter act like you're less than. The fact that freedoms are taken away makes it worse. Basically, you can't sleep in, you can't take a nap, you have no privacy, you have to leave by 8 a.m. every day and be back by 8 p.m. no matter the weather. You have to give up your stuff. You're only allowed to bring 2 small bags and forfeit the rest if you don't have someone to store it for you. They made us prioritize weekly house meetings over employment opportunities and would sometimes deny work opportunities after curfew. I think I was able to get out of being homeless because of my higher education. I have a master's of education and a law degree. I definitely know that the people who were in the shelter with me couldn't generate the same opportunities that I was able to. Even I found navigating the system to be overwhelming. I personally saw the stiff rules and lack of compassion cause a lot of people to fall through the cracks. I still wonder about some of those women and whether or not they're still alive today. LaRonda, I'm pretty sure she's passed away because I haven't been able to track her down in a while. She had a heart condition. I believe she went back to the streets. Jean's place is a little better. However, there's a very long waiting list to get into that shelter, and you can only stay for a short time. You don't have the infrastructure to support the homeless population at this point in time, and these proposed changes will put humans in the prison system, which is even more dehumanizing, when all they're really trying to do is pick up the pieces of their lives. All I ever saw these women doing was looking for housing, jobs, and friendship, and now you want to imprison us all.
Thank you.
And I'm next, Emily Haven, so I'm now speaking for myself.
Okay, thank you.
I worked at the shelter that Marina was speaking about in Portland Rescue Mission. I saw the dehumanizing nature of the shelter's expectations. I saw them prioritizing the proselytization of their faith over providing compassion and services. In my opinion, the way they ran the women's shelter was that the women were guilty until they proved their innocence. That's mostly in reference to drug addiction and mental illness. More than half the beds were often empty. I ultimately left that job because I saw them doing more harm than good, and ultimately they would not allow me to stay in contact with some of the women I had built a connection with, specifically Marina, who became my wife 2 years later. One of the biggest needs I see not being met within the shelter system is human connection. And if an organization or government refuses to prioritize the real need for connection as well, then you're missing the whole point. When Marina and I see tents on the side of the road, we don't feel angry